Welcome in to Check the Mic. Steve Palazzolo, Sam Monson. We're live on YouTube, coming at you from the Antonio Cromartie studio and part with Huggies. All brought to you by FanDuel. And it's time, Sam, for our Week 13 NFL review.
Yeah, which dates all the way back to Thanksgiving.
We usually have to go back and say, what happened on Thursday? Well, a lot, because it was Thanksgiving. There were 3 games. There was a Black Friday game. And not going to lie, the NFL kind of front-loaded the schedule with some awesome games on Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, and usually, Thanksgiving, there's a game that you can basically ignore, take off, right? This is the turkey game on Thanksgiving.
No.
Both in terms of, this game's a turkey, and you can have your turkey then.
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
I prefer those games where you're kind of like...
Well, it feels like you need one, Otherwise, when you're supposed to get in the meal and stuff, it's tricky.
Yeah, because halfway through the day when Kelly looks at me and she's like, football's kind of ruining my holidays. It's like, yeah, well, there was supposed to be a dud of a game somewhere.
Welcome to my world.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, there were some great games back on Thursday, and we're going to start with those. You ready to go?
Yeah.
It all started at 1 p.m. Eastern rather than 12:30 Eastern.
It did.
100,000 years they've been doing it at 12:30, and they changed it. The Green Bay Packers get the win, 31-24 over the Lions. Packers move to 8-3-1. Lions fall to 7-5. What a game this was. I thought Jordan Love absolutely balled out.
Yeah.
The stat line, there's 4 touchdowns, no picks in there, but 18 of 30 for 234. But the number of key throws, clutch throws, big-time throws from Jordan Love, I thought was outstanding. And it all came down to a 4th down decision, just under 2 minutes left. The Packers have the ball just over midfield. They go for it on 4th down with a 7-point lead and convert it. And we'll have plenty of 4th down decisions and go for 2 decisions that will be discussed on this show. But I thought that was a big one to win the game for the Packers.
Yeah, huge. And an unexpected one. I think most people would have expected them to punt the ball. Like, it looked like Brian Branch on a 3rd down pass breakup had given Detroit one last shot to come back and, score a tying touchdown. And then they went for it on 4th down. Jordan Love makes one more excellent throw. His receivers make one more play the way they'd done basically all the way through the game. And this is, one of those things about Green Bay is when those receivers make the plays that come their way, it's an insanely good offense. And Detroit just couldn't stop it. And this was like the most healthy Detroit secondary they'd had in a long time. Like, that group had been really banged up over the course of the year. Most of them are back in this game. And, they were in tight coverage for a lot of those plays, but the Packers receivers made the plays. Like, I think they had 1 drop in the course of the entire game. They've had games where 5 receivers have had 1 drop.
Dontavian Wicks had an incredible tight window touchdown to go up 10-0 for the Packers. They got up early, by the way. They were up 10-0, up 17-7. What was Wicks' catch? How controversial was it? He had his right foot in. When it first hit his hands, left foot went down.
Yeah, I think it was fine.
Did the ball move?
It moved, but that's not again.
Our favorite fans, though, the Lions fans, were upset with this. But that particular play felt like a classic example of you saying, that's not a bobble, that's like a resetting of a ball that you have possession of.
Yeah. Number one, this whole thing of did it move? That's not nowhere in I'm pretty sure nowhere in the rules does it mention that the ball movement is not part of the whole conversation, right? It's control. Control is the thing you're trying to establish. And the second that ball hit his hand, it stuck. Like it did. He had control basically the instant it stuck onto his glove. And then, Brady even clarified this on the broadcast. He's like, it's allowed to change hands. Like he's allowed to shift it from one hand to the other, which is what happened. That demonstrates control. That's not like the antithesis of control. The only way it can shift from one hand to the other is if he's in control of it. And that's what happened. So when it stuck on the first hand, the first foot was already in bounds. The second foot came down. And then everything else is irrelevant.
I thought early in the game, the Lions were a little tentative throwing the ball, and rightfully so. The Packers' pass rush was getting home, creating a lot of pressure on the Lions. Lions banged up on the offensive line. It did feel like they were trying to get into this run-heavy game. Like we've seen the Lions run the ball effectively a lot through the years. I thought the Packers did a pretty good job of slowing down the run game, but it was a Jameson Williams touchdown which took him breaking multiple tackles on a screen pass to
Well,
get from 17 to 7 to 17 to 14.
Yeah, it took him breaking one tackle from Carrington Valentine and then running through the gap that shouldn't have been there had Micah Parsons in particular not just stopped playing. Micah Parsons was the sort of flow pursuit defender and thought the play was made once he saw Valentine come up and put a hit on Jameson in the backfield and literally just stops, just starts walking. And once he realizes, now there's an offensive lineman in his path and Jameson's able to run the alley. That is the type of missed tackle, by the way, that drives me insane. Rugby players make that tackle 100 times out of 100. And just because Valentine does not attempt to wrap up in any way, shape, or form, all he does is try and hit him. Okay, that's fine, but if you don't knock him over with your hit, you're done.
Yeah.
You have to, it's simple. Why would you do anything? Like the play you made to get there was spectacular. Now just wrap your arms around his legs and take him down. Instead, he goes to hit him. Jameson spins out of it and runs in for a touchdown.
A lot of today's show is going to be playoff implications, where teams stand. I mean, there's a lot to break down there. Obviously, this was huge. If you're a Packers fan, you're looking at several plays. I thought what Green Bay did as we're cooking, I'm sitting there, shredding stuff and cook, whatever I could do to help out, watching this back and forth game on my phone. And every single time the Lions came back, the Packers made a big play.
Yeah.
And so it's 17-14 going into the fourth quarter. Jordan Love hits Christian Watson for a 51-yard touchdown, another absolute dime down the field, in another game where Christian Watson makes huge plays for the Packers. Like we've said this a bunch this season. They have all these receivers who are indistinguishable from each other as far as impact goes. Different styles, different skill sets, different sizes, different downfield versus after the catch ability. But I think Watson has been the guy that has distinguished himself as the guy that if he gets going, this Packers offense gets going. And Jordan Love hit him in stride for a 51-yarder. Lions came back. By the way, they lost Amon-Ra St. Brown early in this game, and that's another huge factor for Detroit, who's trying to handle the Packers pass rush with their O-line issues, and then the way that you handle pressure is getting rid of the ball quickly, and your guy, St. Brown, is out. That was another huge factor. So they hit Isaac Tesla for a touchdown to get back within 3. But again, the Packers come right back. Jordan Love just under 2 minutes in the third. But that was the third quarter, the Watson pass, by the way. Sorry. But late in the third, Love hits another touchdown to go back up 10. I thought the Packers handled every counterpunch from the Lions extremely well.
Yeah, I don't think the Lions' offense played badly at all. They made a bunch of plays, even without Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jameson Williams was huge, basically throughout the entire game, except the one fourth and short across the middle where he dropped the ball, and it didn't really matter. They got the ball back. It didn't change the score when they next had their opportunity. So he was huge. The Packers just made more plays. And the one difference is, Green Bay's pass rush got home a little bit. Detroit's didn't really. And, Jordan Love, that step back fadeaway throw he has, he's better at that than anybody else. It looks wrong and it looks weird, but he's able to do it all the time.
Yeah, there's something about Love. I mean, a lot of these throws are higher difficulty. But I say this a lot about quarterbacks. I say this about Trevor Lawrence a lot. It's almost like Trevor Lawrence opts into the more difficult throw a lot of the time. I don't know if that's necessarily what Love is doing, but everything does look like a high degree of difficulty with Love.
He seems to be comfortable with that step back fadeaway pass in a way very few quarterbacks are. Usually when a quarterback is throwing whilst moving backwards, it's a bad thing. Jordan Love seems to have just mastered the mathematics, the trigonometry behind that, and he's fine with that. If you pressure him, he's able to buy himself an extra yard and a half by just fading away from the pass rush and still delivering the pass. Yeah,
and when you're putting it where you want to, there's absolutely something to it. So, huge game for the Packers. And then it comes down to, by the way, the Lions, was it last week against the Eagles or 2 weeks ago against the Eagles? 0 for 5 on fourth down. In this one, 0 for 2 on fourth down. The Packers were 3 for 3. And as we said, here was the situation where they went for it on 4th and 3. It was 150 or so left, 155 left in the game. They're at the Detroit 45, and they're up 7. And so we get into these decisions, and we talk a lot about if you're one play away from winning, it's usually a pretty good proposition. And let's be serious, the Packers were playing extremely well, but they're still the underdog in this game. I know the Lions were missing players and everything. They're still the underdogs, but slight underdogs in this game. You're in a dome, and it's probably easier to move the ball, throwing the ball that way, or throwing the ball indoors. So you chose one play.
I mean, that's the classic. It's the perfect field position for that decision because it's almost no man's land. Like it's a really short / pointless punt. It's a 62-yard field goal, or it's one play on 4th and short to win the game with your offense. Like it's the perfect play to land on the side of going for it.
and so 4th and 3, another tight window throw, 16-yarder from Jordan Love to Dontavian Wicks, and that sealed it for Green Bay. And I just came out of that game thinking, first off, on the day, on Thanksgiving, Jordan Love played MVP caliber football. Mm-hmm. Big time throw, tight window throws, nonstop in this game, in crunch time, 18 of 30. I don't care. I mean, when they needed a play in a really good throw, Jordan Love was making it. I thought he played great. Green Bay, I thought their pass rush did have an effect early on Detroit. Detroit's still very good and was able to stay in it and overcome a lot of the injuries and issues that they have. But, man, what an impact game. Packers now, they complete the sweep.
Yeah.
It wasn't as dominant as it was way back in week 1. But to go into Detroit for the second time in 3 years on Thanksgiving to get the win.
Dan Campbell is now 1-5 on Thanksgiving. The Lions have lost 8 of the last 10 Thanksgiving games. And, okay, a chunk of those was when they were the bad Detroit Lions. But when you think, like, Dan Campbell has been the savior of the Detroit Lions. They've been one of the best teams in the NFL basically since he got there. And he's still 1-5 on Thanksgiving. That's kind of crazy.
And listen, the Lions are now 7-5. And the second straight year they've done this whole, come back the next Thursday. Remember, The Lions never had Thursday primetime games because their one game would always be on Thanksgiving. The NFL is like, man, we like watching the Lions in primetime. Let's give them another Thursday game next week. Well, next week it's against the Cowboys. And it's a hot Cowboys team that's now 6-5-1. And the Lions are 7-5, right? So similar records here. And the Cowboys are in the middle of this gauntlet of which they've already knocked off the first 2 tiers, the Eagles and the Chiefs. And they've got the Lions next week. And we're talking legitimate playoff hopes on the line next week for Detroit. So standings as of now, Green Bay is the 6th seed at 8-3-1 in the NFC. But, that's a half game behind the Bears, by the way, who are the number 1 seed as of right now at 9-3. So the Packers 8-3-1. Cowboys would be on the outside looking in as far as the playoffs go at 7-5.
Two other things to come from this game. Devontae Wyatt is done with an ankle fracture. That was confirmed after the game. That's a big blow for the Green Bay Packers. The way Wyatt and Parsons have been working together this year has been really impressive. Parsons sort of uses Wyatt to run off the back of, like when they line him up in that kind of off the ball spot behind the defensive line. They sort of use the two of those guys as a foil. That'll be a big impact without him there. And then we need to cover the Frank Ragnow thing because that's bizarre.
So since we last recorded, right? Like this was between Wednesday and the end of the week. Former Lions center Frank Ragnow came out of retirement. He retired last year. He was one of the best centers in the league.
Great news. Reinforcements on the way. Frank Ragnow, one of the best centers in the game, is unretiring and will therefore rejoin the Detroit Lions, ready for their playoff push.
Which, by the way, how impactful would that be?
Huge.
The Lions are beat up on the interior of their offensive line. That's where a lot of the pressure is coming from. And there was a point, I remember our friend Nate Tice would drop these without splits with Frank Ragnow and the difference in their offense. And those are noisy and what have you. But there was a point where when Ragnow was hurt, that whole offense was not functioning. And, they've still been very good this year, even if there were certain games they're missing something. So if Ragnow was able to come back and solidify the center spot for Detroit, it would be massive. The guy just retired last year. It's not like
But in large part because you assume that, if he's deciding now in late November, early December that he's ready to go, it's because he's gotten healthy. And a healthy Frank Ragnow is still one of the best centers in football.
However, he's not healthy.
Very not healthy. And this is the wildest aspect of this. So he then, it turns out, reportedly, according to the Lions and then everybody else, failed his physical. The Lions put out a thing saying Frank Ragnow reported to our facility yesterday and went through the normal process of meetings. Unfortunately, during the routine meeting with our medical team, Frank failed his physical. Now, Ragnow, his history, that makes sense. The medical exam revealed a grade 3 hamstring strain that will keep him from participating for the remainder of the regular season. For that reason, Frank will not be rejoining the Lions. Frank has always been a team-first guy and a true warrior. He will forever be a Lion. A grade 3 hamstring tear is like full tear. You can't walk around. How did Frank think he was just going to walk back into the building and be like, by the way, I don't know if this is a problem or not, but my hamstring doesn't exist?
Was he hobbling around the house for the entire year? Like how bad is grade 3?
Grade 3 is like full tear. It's the hamstring isn't working.
Yeah, that's rough.
How did he? I don't understand. I do not get
How much
this.
do you really need your hamstring at center?
Quite a lot.
I'm just kidding.
I need to, there needs to be more details here. This is an example of where the insiders actually need to get off their ass and do some reporting and find out what the hell happened here, because there's missing information, right? The Lions put this out. I don't need you to report that Frank had a grade 3 hamstring tear. I need you to call people up and find out how in God's name Frank expected to walk back onto a football field with a grade 3 hamstring tear and think he was going to clear a physical and stuff. Grade 3 is a complete rupture. Like it's your hamstring isn't there. What?
Thought he could play through it. Played through others.
Look, Frank is an absolute badass and has played through some ridiculous stuff in his career. But like grade 3 hamstring is, you can't walk. I don't understand how this was a thing.
It would have been needed reinforcements for the Lions, assuming he was just, 75, 80% of his previous self. But
back
without him.
There's like a million of those Twitter doctors out there. One of them has posted a picture of like, this is a grade 3 hamstring.
It's just a dude, big bruise.
Yeah, it's just a dude lying on the table. Basically, his entire leg is purple.
Yeah,
it's like, and not one of these insiders, by the way, has even remarked on that. They're all just like, it's a grade 3 hamstring tear, so he's out for the year. Not one of them has been like, and you don't think that that's a little bit like noteworthy that he was just like, I'm going to unretire with a grade 3 hamstring tear.
They're trying to still do well by Frank's agent and
right.
say, hey, tried to grind it out. Just,
I know that, so
too much.
Grade 1, tearing of only a few muscle or tendon fibers. Grade 2, more severe partial muscle tear. Grade 3, complete rupture of the muscle. Like, that's you bad. Don't have a hamstring. It's been torn completely. You can't even walk around.
So he might not be coming back next year either.
I mean, somebody needs to get into that and find out how in the world he thought he was going to play off the back of that.
Well, it's unfortunate for the Lions.
It is.
Who, as I said, come back next week, or next Thursday. The NFC has 6 teams with 3 or fewer wins. That's not really true. 4 or fewer. All in the mix here. 4 of them, actually. They're 8-3-1. I mean, Seattle's at 9-3 in the 5 seed. It's very competitive. Every game means a ton here. But Green Bay, just that half game off the lead with the Bears, coming down to that tie against the Cowboys back in week 4. So Lions are in, must-win mode, and the Packers are as close to. It's like the Vikings and Lions last year. The Packers are as close to the number 1 seed as they are the 6 seed right now in the NFC. Huge win for Green Bay on Thanksgiving. Anything else on that one?
Nope.
We get into the 4:30 window on Turkey Day. The Dallas Cowboys get the win, 31-28 over the Chiefs. Cowboys now 6-5-1. Chiefs fall to 6-6. As I said on the preview show, just a battle of 2 number 10 seeds in their respective conference. Chiefs are still at number 10 after Sunday, but the Cowboys creeping up into the playoff picture. They got up 10 in the fourth quarter. Their offense, man, more Dak and George Pickens. It looked bleak early because right off the bat, Dak Prescott throws an interception. The Chiefs score on their second play, 25-yard bubble screen to Rashee Rice. Chiefs are up 7-0 almost immediately, and it was like, all right, Dallas's defense, how are you going to stop the Chiefs? Definitely can't turn the ball over. Chiefs are up pretty quick with 2 touchdowns. Dallas kept coming back, but Dallas's defense made just enough stops. There was like this lull in the middle of the game where the Chiefs didn't score. They punted 4 straight times, and then in the fourth quarter, the Cowboys handled the Chiefs' comeback and then did a nice job running the clock out. Bunch of penalties in there, some questionable penalties, I think, in favor of Dallas in this one as well. But Dak Prescott throwing for 320 and 2 touchdowns, and death by a million slants to George Pickens. Every time they needed a big play, slant to Pickens seemed to be working.
Yeah, it did seem like the game was going to go in a completely different direction based off how it started. I mean, it was a classic, like, Spags zone blitz. They had a rotation off the back of it. Dak just a bad interception under pressure. And then the Chiefs scored that touchdown a couple of plays later with the quick screen to Rashee Rice, who's so good at that stuff. And you're like, oh, man, this is 2 teams that are not necessarily where they wanted to be at the start of the year, but only one of them is likely to head towards the playoffs. And then it didn't stay that way. And Dallas did get themselves together and come back in a completely different direction. Definitely aided by the fact that Josh Simmons goes down. So suddenly Josh Simmons went down.
Juwan
Taylor left the game as well. And Trey Smith was already out. So suddenly 3/5 of your offensive line is now missing in action for the Chiefs. That absolutely was a factor in the game. But yeah, Dallas were impressive.
The offensive line for Kansas City, I think we'll talk more about it on Thursday when we preview next weekend. They're playing the Texans on Sunday Night Football. It looks like Josh Simmons is going to miss some time generally. We'll see what happens with Taylor at right tackle, waiting on injury report there. There's only one swing tackle to handle the 2 spots with Jalen Moore. Like, Wanye Morris has still struggled. He struggled when he came in. I thought this was one of Mahomes' best games overall. I thought there were other games earlier this year where, I thought he was part of the loss, right? He was, had these comeback attempts against Buffalo and against Denver, and the offense sputtered, but the Chiefs made the fourth quarter comebacks. They were on their way to making these comebacks, but it was the Chiefs defense, I thought, that let them down from their perspective, but it was the Cowboys offense from their perspective that went and won the game, right? Like, when you're going to compete with the Chiefs, and I think they were talking about this on the broadcast a ton, where they were talking about Brian Schottenheimer being like, telling his coaches, don't let me get conservative, make sure I stay aggressive, and they're staying aggressive, and they're throwing to win in crunch time, and that's what they needed to do. They needed to make a couple plays. It was funny because they almost blew it. I mean, they were up 7 in field goal range, and they had back-to-back plays. Ball was tipped up, almost intercepted, and there was a fumble. It was a Pickens, a fumble that bounced around a little bit, right? And that would have been disastrous for Dallas, right? They're up 7. You're in field goal range. You're about to go up 10 with like 3 minutes left, right? This game is over if you just kick a field goal. And they almost turned it over. And that's why I think high level, when you look at the Chiefs and the fact that they're 6-6 and the sky is falling and what's different, I mean, I literally think it's a handful of plays per game. I think you could take a step back and say Spags in the defense, they're not making the same kind of stops overall that they have made in previous years. Last week they did, though, against the Colts. They forced 4 straight 3-and-outs. But I think you could, if we're honest about the Chiefs, I don't think there's that much of a difference between this year and the last 2 years, other than they would recover that fumble and go down and score. They won games on a 4th and 18 defensive pass interference last year, on a blocked field goal, on a dropped snap by the Raiders in field goal range. Do we forget how ridiculous some of their one-score wins were last year? And now those just individual plays aren't going this way. They had a no-call pass interference in the end zone against the Falcons in Week 3. I mean, we're talking 4 games right there off the top of my head. And now this year, it's like, well, they didn't get the fumble here, and they didn't get a play there, and they went 3-and-out here. And I mean, it's just a couple plays here and there for the Chiefs, and they're 6-6.
Yeah, I think that's true, but early in the season, it was sort of like, and that means that eventually they'll bounce back and they'll go on a run. I think if they made the playoffs, they would still be a threat to anybody. The problem is they're rapidly running out of margin for error to even make the playoffs. They've still got a pretty good shot at it, but they don't have much room to screw up again. Like the offense was good in this game. I mean, they did their share of damage. Mahomes was really impressive. He was making a ton of plays as and when they needed. But the defense was kind of gashed. I mean, McDuffie coughed up like 3 defensive pass interference penalties. I think the two main corners for Kansas City were penalized 5 times and gave up like 150 yards to those 2 Dallas wide receivers. Dak Prescott was great. The defense wasn't able to make the plays at the end when they needed to. Dallas, got the ball back and then just never gave Kansas City a chance. They just ran the clock out.
I know Dak had the early interception, at least 1 or 2 other passes into coverage. But, man, I mean, the same thing I said about Jordan Love, except, Dak, you take away a couple of Dak's bad ones in there. He just continued to make huge throws when they needed to. And again, when you're facing Kansas City indoors, that offense, Mahomes at home, trying to make a statement, playing back in Texas, you can't sit there and just run the ball out. You just can't just run the ball and say, okay, we'll trust our defense. Dallas's defense has improved, but not enough that you're trusting them against the Chiefs' offense. And so Dak, while they're holding a lead, and this is where against good teams fail against good teams a lot, is when they get conservative. And Dallas didn't, man. They made plays down the field. They had a huge play to flip the field when they were backed up. And when I said earlier in the year Dak should have been in the MVP conversation, which we don't talk about a ton here, MVP. But if you're an honest MVP voter early in the year, you should have said, I don't care about Dallas's record. Their record's only bad because of this defense. Almost historically bad defense in Dallas. And Dak is doing everything he can to keep them in it. And doing it under pressure and doing it with a makeshift offensive line and doing it every single week against Green Bay's defense back in week 4 when they dropped 40 when Green Bay's defense looked unbelievable. I mean, and Dak, look, he's had a couple bad games in there, but man, throw after throw in this game. And against Kansas City, it is difficult. Like we talked about before the game, right? Like Buffalo might be better set up to beat Kansas City because they've got the yak players, they got their tight end mismatches, because it's hard to win with your 2 outside receivers against Kansas City historically. But they did. Like Pickens against Watson was a mismatch most of the time. He's getting a little physical, getting a little handsy on those slants. But CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens combining 13 catches, over 200 yards, or exactly 200 yards between the 2 of those guys. Those guys won the game for Dallas. Dak to Pickens and Lamb, which is tough to do against the Spags defense.
It was Kevontae Turpin, by the way, who saved that fumble where George Pickens puts it on the ground. Turpin dives on it, saves the possession. That's a 3-point play. Like they scored a field goal, I think.
This is in a 7-point game,
right? Where
Dallas just needs a field goal to go up 10.
So it's a 3-point play and a 2-possession play
with 5 minutes left in the game, right? So you're saying if you gave the ball back to Kansas City down 7,
right,
in a gotta have it drive. Against Mahomes and the Chiefs, which, by the way, they did drive down and scored a touchdown with about 3 minutes left.
Right. I mean,
and
he
then
was
never
running,
saw the ball.
Yeah, that's the thing. He was running through the play, dives on it, saves the possession. That play by him individually is the difference between this. It's the difference of 3 points, and it's the difference between it being a 1 or a 2 possession game with Mahomes about to get the ball.
Huge. And that's why I'm saying, like, if you're a Chiefs fan and you're trying to figure out what's going wrong, the same number of individual plays that I just rattled off that led to wins last year for the Chiefs, I feel like you could do that this year.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like you shouldn't be in panic mode in terms of if you make the playoffs, you can still beat anybody. You're kind of in panic mode, though, in terms of are we even making the playoffs?
Are they going to get there, right? Like, but all I know is around the rest of the league, right? All I see is the analysis around the rest of the league. There's no good teams, and the Broncos are flawed, and this team's never going to win. Like somebody has to win in the playoffs. Every team's flawed. Buffalo, they're flawed, but yeah, it's true. They're all flawed. But Kansas City's still sitting there at 6-6, and Buffalo's flawed, and the Colts are falling off, and the Ravens are flawed, and the Jags are a fraud, and the Broncos' offense sucks, and the Patriots haven't played everybody. Like, everybody's got these questions. I'm just, repeating the analysis. Kansas City could still win out.
Yeah, well,
and they're fine.
They're like the 10 seed or something right now,
the 10,
and they wouldn't be scared of any of the 9 teams ahead of them if they make the playoffs.
But
the problem is you got to make the playoffs.
But you're right. Like, you probably can't lose. You certainly can't lose more than one.
Yeah, like the NFL. The NFL's thing puts their current playoff probability at 37%. I mean, and one of the teams that they need to jump is sitting there, directly ahead of them in the stand. Like, they're just running out of games.
The Houston game this week, the playoff leverage is going to be absolutely massive.
Yeah, I mean, if they lose that, they're basically done.
Yeah, I'm more speaking to. Yeah, you're right. Like, if the Chiefs sneak into the playoffs, like, good luck.
Right.
That's they could absolutely go on their run.
Like, I don't even know how many of the teams ahead of them would be favored against them. If they are, it's because of the home road thing. But like, again, if Kansas City makes the playoffs, none of the teams in the AFC will scare them.
So they're absolutely running out of time, but I don't think it's like a sky is falling type of deal for Kansas City.
Right.
Because they're still a good team. They're not getting all of those one plays.
They're all frauds.
One play here and there.
Spags, Andy Reid, Mahomes are all frauds.
Everybody's a fraud. And then Dallas, man, I mean, we said a few weeks ago, I kept highlighting this 3-game stretch, Eagles, Chiefs, and now the Lions next week. Peter Schrager on ESPN, I saw some people poking fun at him a couple weeks ago, and in my head I kind of was too. He said this month, these next 3 games will determine.
He did. He
Dak's
said
legacy.
Well, yeah, he said they were legacy-defining.
Legacy-defining game. And listen.
To be fair, it was an utterly ridiculous claim to make.
It's a ridiculous claim unless.
No, unless.
Unless it goes in Dak's favor. Huge plays against the Eagles. No. Huge plays against the Chiefs. If he has a big fourth-quarter comeback win against Detroit next week, and it gets Dallas into the playoffs.
Name for me a single NFL great player whose legacy, the first thing you talk about is a 3-week stretch between weeks 12 and 14, 10 years into his career.
Early Toyota-thon.
Not one player in history that you can claim that about. None.
The only person who could have their legacy even discussed during Toyota-thon is Dak Prescott.
Right.
Because, if they get... Even if they make it to the playoffs and they have a lay an egg in round one.
Like, that's a classic example of, like, the Stephen A. Smithification of the world. Like, the claim is this is an important few weeks for Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, and the way we jazz that up to Stephen A. Smith TV is this is a legacy-defining 3-week stretch for Dak Prescott.
All we said was
that's a
huge
ridiculous
3-week
claim.
stretch, determine the Cowboys season.
Right.
And then really quick, quick shout out to Brian Schottenheimer in Dallas. I think think about him from a coaching perspective. Right before the season, they traded Micah Parsons. We have the Marshawn Kneeland tragedy just a few weeks ago. You have Schotty as a first-year head coach who was not interviewed by any other team, was I don't want to say the hand-picked Cowboys, but I mean he was the guy that they targeted after Mike McCarthy. And you have them starting slow. The offense never slowed down. By the way, you have George Pickens coming in, who got essentially pushed out of Pittsburgh because you're trying to keep his head on straight. Is he focused? You can't rely on him week to week. And he's getting first-team All-Pro play out of George Pickens. And I mentioned before the year, if you look at Schotty, he was adjacent to the best year of Russell Wilson, the best year of Dak Prescott, and you could argue now the second best year of Dak Prescott, either this year or 23 is his best season. And he's doing it again. And I think Schottenheimer, the fact that he has kept Dallas together through the adversity, through the front office turmoil, through the drama, and they're sitting here at 6-5-1 with this golden opportunity to win some games down the stretch and make it to the playoffs. I think it's a great first-year job so far from Schotty.
I mean, I also think he's a great example of how people on the outside just don't know anything when it comes to coaches, even in the world of like quantifying, play callers and stuff, right? Like, sure, you can do some of that, but how do you quantify what he actually called versus what the quarterback checked into versus, what the alternative on the table was? Like, so there's this world where there are some guys that quantify play calling, like, Schotty's nothing. There's nothing special. No, he's not moving the needle. Obviously, there are guys who it's fairly obvious through their resume do that. Kyle Shanahan, right? Pretty obvious that he's elevated almost everything he's been around.
But you have a decade
right,
plus.
For the entirety of his NFL career. That, I think we can all agree, is probably the case. But outside of that, we're all just at the mercy of, like, when this stuff comes together, when it doesn't. And somebody like Brian Schottenheimer has got, like, At one point, Brian Daboll was seen as the reason Josh Allen succeeded and like one of the hottest, offensive minds in the game. And now you could argue that Brian Schottenheimer has a better resume than Brian Daboll. And nothing really has changed other than it didn't work out recently for Daboll, and he now got fired. And Jerry Jones decided Schottenheimer was the guy, and his offense is cooking in Dallas. And that's changed everybody's perspective on everything.
It's a really good point by you, by the way, as someone that loves quantifying things and reading things that are quantified, right? Schottenheimer had a point when he was a play caller where he was in this run, pass mode when he had Russell Wilson.
Right.
Because the other element is Russ was never really good when he was a high-volume passer. So Russ's best games were when he threw the ball 27 times, and it was all downfield play action, and you didn't need him throwing the ball underneath or over the middle. And so there's this idea of like protecting the quarterback, playing to their strengths. But he was, and plus his dad, Marty Ball, was super conservative in today's NFL. So he kind of got tagged with this, he runs the ball too much, too many 2nd and 10 runs, and he doesn't attack. But they had a year he was the let Russ cook offensive coordinator, where they started passing the ball, on early downs a little bit more, and Russ had his best seasons. And so that's the other thing about predicting coaching is you don't know when they're going to change.
Right.
Some coaches don't change, right? And it's like they're done. They don't adjust. Dan Quinn went through this phase with Dallas as well. He's just cover 3, and it's like this archaic scheme now in today's NFL. It's 10 years old. Well, all of a sudden he changed and started becoming a turnover creator. Like Dan Quinn's ability to adjust is what makes him a great coach, and it's really tough to know when that's going to happen. So just wanted to shout out Schottenheimer given everything that's happened in Dallas this year.
I never got an answer to this during the game or during the day, but I saw Jerry Jones was giving his usual "it's all about me" post-game press huddle, and did he award himself a turkey leg?
Oh, I don't know. We're going to have to.
Because he was just standing there holding a turkey leg throughout this interview like it was normal, right? Even in the context of Thanksgiving, the owner/GM just standing there with a turkey leg is a little weird.
Honoring John Madden in his own way. It wasn't that he earned. CTM investigates. We'll have a full report. We'll get the Bugler on.
Going toe to toe with Pablo Torre.
Yeah,
is that what's happening here?
Yeah, we'll have a full report. The Bugler will have a full report on Wednesday's update.
You see Jake Ferguson just grab the entire turkey carcass, like fist in the turkey, and run off with it.
Did you see the Bengals post game? The Bengals was special.
We'll
talk about it in a minute.
Yeah, Jamar Chase. Joe Burrow didn't want any part of anything that was.
Joe Burrow's like near tears, just excited to be back on the field, and Drew Sample's over there. Oh, skin's the best part. Anyway,
but
we will.
But I felt like I think
if
Jerry,
you could just make a note that the Bugler will investigate where the turkey leg came from. Thank you.
Did you enjoy the multifaceted John Madden celebration throughout Thanksgiving?
Yes, I think anything honoring John Madden was fun. It's so much so that I want the patch for next year.
That would be good.
I want us to wear the patch next year at Thanksgiving.
There was a moment that I thought was pretty funny where one of the sort of bumper videos was a clip from Vince Lombardi talking about pass rush and how, when you arrive at the quarterback, do it with something like mean intention, something like that. Yeah. He was just articulating like everything that's a penalty in today's NFL. Like there was a 45-second clip, and everything he said in it is now illegal. And you're praising this as the good old days, and it is. It's just can't do any of that anymore. You can't arrive at the quarterback with mean intentions. You breathe on the man wrong, it's a 15-yard penalty. What are you talking about?
You also sent me a note when they showed the clip of John just digging into the turducken mid-broadcast.
It's one of we just accepted it as like a piece of quaint folklore, but it's one of the most unhinged things anybody has ever done. The man just starts digging fist first into a turducken, like both hands just like ripping this thing apart in a booth, in a full suit, like half a mile from any form of hand washing ability. What are you doing? It's crazy.
I didn't appreciate Madden enough. What are you saying? It's Summerall.
It's one of the most lunatic things anybody has ever done is you start ripping apart a turducken, with your bare hands, and then been like, now what do I do?
It's going to be a 4-hour show anyway, but remember that story about him and Pat Summerall? They would like take turns, or Summerall would see how long he could pause.
Yeah, Murder, She Wrote.
On Murder, She Wrote.
They had
this
a bet.
Tuesday on Murder.
Right.
She wrote.
They had a bet to see basically how long they could put a pause in there before somebody actually pulled them up on it.
It was such a great duo because Madden's over there, boom, and watch this. And Summerall's like 97-yard touchdown.
There's
a flag on the field.
I do think, though, the one area where I think they've goofed with the Thanksgiving celebrations is creating like an actual fancy trophy to hand people. I can't think of anything less John Madden than like, here's a polished, professional-looking trophy for this Thanksgiving John Madden would get a turkey leg and just spray paint it bronze and hand it to somebody. Like, that's what it should be.
Can we do that?
Like, an actual trophy is not – we've missed the mark there.
Can we honor John in our own way with a bronzed turkey leg?
Yeah, next year we should just get our own turkey leg and spray paint it bronze with stuff you get from Home Depot.
That's what John would want.
Yeah.
That is absolutely what John would want.
Right.
And he would hand you 6 of them and say, this is from the turducken.
And he'd give them to the offensive line.
And he'd give them to the winning offensive line each gets one, and then whoever else this other player is.
And Kevontae Turpin for diving on the fumble.
Turpin. There we go. Perfect.
There's your 6 legs from the turducken, all spray painted bronze.
Good discussion on this game. Anything else on Chiefs Cowboys? A lot to break down this week. Playoffs on the line for both teams going forward here. And then Sunday night, the Cincinnati Bengals 32, Baltimore Ravens 14. Joe Burrow makes his return. The entire Bengals team interviewed post-game, eating the turkey and eating all the – they had the long snapper in there, grabbing a leg and everything. It was wild. Bengals moved to 4-8. You would think that they're in first place with the excitement here, but it's not crazy right now. They're 2 games out.
On the way in, there was an orange haze in the sky. Cincinnati's back, baby.
It's a victory weekend here in Cincinnati.
It is. I mean, their playoff odds jumped from under 1% before this game to 9% according to PFF. Now, the NFL doesn't have them anywhere near as high as that yet. Maybe, I don't think last night changed that. But anyway, it's starting to happen again. This whole, like last year, where a million things needed to break their way in order for them to go on the run and make the postseason. And almost all of the million did, except for one very last game at the end. It's still possible. I mean, it's unlikely, but the crazy thing is the Flacco move should have saved their season. Like, if they didn't drop the game to the Jets, we'd be in a very different spot.
And the Bears.
But the Bears apparently are the number 1 seed. They're good now.
It was just the way that it happened.
But the point is, you lost to the Jets. Like, you went and beat Pittsburgh when you weren't supposed to, and then you lost to the Jets to follow that up. If they'd beaten the Jets, we would be talking about a completely different scenario, I think.
Trying to see what happened with my plug here. So Joe Burrow makes his return. There's stories on both sides. Let me start with Baltimore really quick. Lamar Jackson finishes 17 of 32 for 246 with an interception, 2 fumbles in there as well. That was where this all started. The turnovers for Baltimore. So you could say, look, Burrow made his return, and I want to break down what happened there as well. But it's a 7-3 game that looks like the normal game, right? Derrick Henry's rattling off big runs early on. Lamar and the Ravens are backed up. He's kind of dancing in the pocket a little bit. He fumbles, ball pops up. Cincinnati recovers. Baltimore kept making stops in the red zone, and so that essentially handed the Bengals 3 points. Then you have Isaiah Likely, what should have been a 45-yard touchdown, fumbles out of the back of the end zone, which you should not do. Just don't fumble out of the back of the end zone. Just don't do it. Don't complain about the rule. Don't fumble. So he fumbles out of the back of the end zone, touchback. That takes 6+ points off the board for the Ravens. Then Lamar tries to, throw it, pulls it back in, drops it, fumble. At the 20, that leads to a Bengals field goal. Like, the Ravens defense kept forcing these field goals in
the first half,
difficult
Burrow
situations.
Was 1 of 9 in the red zone. Like 9 attempts, 1 completion.
So their offense, it's interesting what happens, right? Sometimes there's quarterback limitations. Sometimes there's quarterbacks elevating. There's something about when Burrow comes in. I don't know if it's him or if it's Zach Taylor just putting more on his plate. It just feels low percentage. Like, they get the ball in the tight red zone, they're immediately in the gun, running the ball.
First and goal from the 2, and they got nothing out of it.
Well, yeah, they're in the gun.
The field goal. No, nothing, because the fourth down. They got nothing. They got nothing out of a first and goal from the 2.
And none of the plays felt like they had a chance, right? They're in the gun on.
Gesicki should have caught his one, but
Oh, I thought he missed him. Didn't he just miss him?
I think of the fourth down, Gesicki should come down with that.
Anyway, it feels low percentage when Burrow's in there. Remember last year, they were the worst goal line running team, and they're sitting there in the gun, and there's no QB run threat, and they're just like run to nowhere, and then just low percentage passes on the outside. And so they were struggling in the red zone. And even just a lot of their regular offense is like, who's winning on the outside? Let's have Joe Burrow throw the ball helmet high, 20 yards down the field outside the numbers. And a lot of times he could do that because he's awesome. But they kind of morphed back into what I felt like this low percentage Burrow offense, where I thought there was elements of the Flacco offense where it's like, oh, look, they're scheming it open. And they're using the middle of the field more and whatever. Anyway, Burrow started to make some big-time throws in the second half. I thought they found some better rhythm. But the story is those turnovers, man. Lamar gets, they're down. Every time Baltimore was down 2 scores in the second, they also turned it over again, batted pass interception in the red zone. So, credit the Bengals defense for playing well for maybe the first time all season.
Yeah, well, it's turnovers and missed opportunities, the combination of the two. The Bengals defense definitely played better than it has basically all season, as you said. But Baltimore also shot itself in the foot a bunch in the game on like non-forced errors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You already mentioned the Isaiah Likely one. You've got Tez Walker with a huge drop on a deep shot from Lamar Jackson. There's another one where Tez Walker's got the ball in his hands and can't come down with it. Dax Hill's fighting for it, but honestly, I think the ground forced it out more than Dax Hill did. It's a tough catch, but it's one you want a guy to come up with, particularly when he's already dropped a deep shot earlier. So, Lamar just like throwing the ball on the ground, right? Tuck rule, ball just pops out of his hands. I mean, that's an unforced error. The Bengals defense did play better than it's played all season, but there's a list of just basic screw-ups from the Ravens.
Zay Flowers fumble toward the end. It looked like for a minute Travis Jones saved the game. Bengals were up 15. It's middle of the fourth quarter. Travis Jones, it's third down, right? The Bengals are sitting there. All they need to do is run a play, kick a field goal. You're up 3 scores. This game's pretty much over. Travis Jones forces a fumble on and recovers it against Samaje Perine. For a minute, saved the game, but then Zay Flowers fumbled it right back. And rest was history, man, for Cincinnati. I thought Burrow, threw the seam route, touchdown. That was a backbreaker for Baltimore and a great throw to Princeton, to Yosivas, who is he's on billboards. Are you seen him around billboards around town?
No,
he's promoting some mustard or something like that. Yosivas. I've been meaning to text you about this for weeks. Every time, but I'm in the car, so I drive. And I'm like, remember to tell Sam.
But you do your speech to text thing in the car.
I could, but even that's a little dangerous, and I don't want. We don't want to. You're not allowed to even hold your phone in Ohio.
No. It's got to be It's got to be all voice command.
Could be through. I got my. I got it hooked up, but
you could have given me 100 guesses for what Princeton was promoting, and I wouldn't have got the mustard.
I could be wrong. I'm trying to, but because every time I'm like, all right, remember to tell Sam, and here I am on air telling you, it was his only catch, 29-yarder, and maybe Burrow's best throw of the day. Also had a nice, downfield throw to Chase, but he, early on he missed Chase. He was a little rusty, and he admitted that after Burrow missed a couple throws.
Despite
early
that,
on.
Though, by the way, 32 attempts in the first half, which is like the second most of his entire career.
He just went right into it.
Right? They're like, he might be a little rusty, but what the hell? We need him.
But that's what
I mean. You go, Joe. Sling it.
It's there's actually a lot of similarities to Burrow and Andrew Luck in their career.
Yeah,
that was where Andrew Luck's. Remember Andrew Luck's rookie season was 2012. RG3's got Kyle Shanahan. RG3 had a great statistical season, one of the best of all time for a rookie quarterback to that point. And you're watching that, and you're like, yes, he's the run threat. But you see all these easy throws. There's deep post running, dudes running wide open all over the place. It's like, man, they are scheming it up for RG3. And Andrew Luck's early career is like 3rd and 12. Throw the ball to this exact spot right outside the numbers. The difficulty level high.
And
Drop
also,
back passing game, a lot on that quarterback. I feel like that's very similar to how the Bengals treat Burrow.
And also there seems to be an acknowledgement, again, both teams throughout their careers. There's like an acknowledgement that, we're asking too much of this guy. On the other hand, we don't have a better option, so sorry, right? And that was their careers. Like, the Colts basically all the way were like, I know too much is on his plate. We're expecting him to be Superman too often. On the other hand, we don't have anything better, so sorry.
So 32 dropbacks in the first
and
half.
it's
Welcome back, Joe.
Burrow is coming back off his injury, and he's working with a carbon plate in his foot, and, he's a bit rusty. And, ideally we'd like to make this thing go better. but we don't have a better option, so you're going to have to attempt 32 passes in the first half. Sorry. By the way, the plate thing, he's playing with a carbon fiber plate in his shoe to prevent re-injury, which apparently is so uncomfortable that he's literally changing out of his cleat and putting on sneakers on the sideline, like between series. That's nuts. Like he goes to the sideline after whatever the drive has ended, takes off the cleat, pops on a sneaker, and is like, now I got to... That's how uncomfortable this plate is in his foot.
Seems unideal.
It does. Very unideal.
He said he was a little bit more mobile than he had anticipated. And then, post-game interview, it sounded like, it was a wild scene. They invited, most of the Bengals team to partake with Melissa Stark in the turkey dinner. And Joe's over there like, man, thanks to the doctors, it was really tough. I've had all these injuries, just pouring his heart out, and everybody's just like destroying turkey legs and everything. So it was emotional for him. And it's
meanwhile, he didn't want to touch anything that he hadn't seen prepared individually by his. It was smart, by the way.
Fair, yeah.
I don't know what that's been. I don't know who made that. I don't know what they put in it.
As someone who's delivered a tainted turkey dinner to others, to teammates.
A tainted turkey dinner.
Yeah, I've told that story on the show before. I gave the salmonella-laced turkey dinner to my teammates.
Yeah.
Didn't partake myself, but I delivered it.
Seriously, though, in this world of you're 100% responsible for what's in your body. Like if you pop some random substance, I don't know how good of an excuse is the dude from the TV gave me this turkey leg and that's where it came from. All right, it might be legit, but does that, if you get popped for something that happened just to the salt had some weird substance in it, is that getting you off?
Yeah. The Ravens chefs.
Right.
They made it, so it's got to be fine.
I think that's smart from Joe.
They had some blue crabs in there.
It's not television friendly, but it's smart.
They added blue crabs and Cincinnati chili to the mix.
Blue crabs are the smashy?
Yeah,
smashy.
Yeah, that's what you had at
right.
Jimmy's.
Yeah. That's not you can't.
It's not a made-for-TV food.
No.
Somebody's going to have to
crack into that with the hammer.
Somebody has to do the work for you. It's not like grabbing a lobster or
a soft shell crab. We used to eat the thing.
Or crab legs. Right. The blue crab, you can't. As a former blue crab, 2-year blue crab of Southern Maryland,
right.
You don't just.
It's a lot of work.
It's not TV food. Yeah. So they added that to the mix, though, as well. Implications here in this game.
Bengals are alive.
Bengals are 4-8. Ravens are 6-6, still technically atop the division. Steelers lost yesterday, puts them at 6-6, and they're playing next week. And so when we go back, it's still a massive uphill climb for Cincinnati.
What's actually the best for them now? I was assuming that Baltimore sweeping the Steelers was good for Cincinnati, but now is it actually better for them to split the series?
I think they'd rather Baltimore win.
Because their best chance of making the playoffs is winning the division, right?
Oh yeah, they've got no shot at they've got no shot at the wild card.
So they need to overhaul both teams.
Correct.
To do that, do they need them to split the series against each other?
They already have the win. They split with Pittsburgh, but I don't know where the tiebreaker would go because a lot still has to happen.
I assume it becomes a 3-way tie at the top if they have any shot of doing this.
And if there's more than one, if there's a 3-way tie, it gets to conference win percentage, and the Bengals are, I think that's actually where they're favored, 4-4.
We don't have time to figure out what the best thing for them is.
Either way, Cincinnati, for the second straight year, probably has to win out. They play Buffalo, though, in Buffalo next week. So it's a tough – Bengals fans are likely going to be kicking themselves about the Jets game and the Bears game.
The Jets game.
The Jets game more than anything else. 15-point lead with a few minutes left.
That's going to be that's this year's version of the Patriots Week 1 mess last year, where it's the one game that ended up costing you and stopping you being in the postseason was the one game in the season where your offense actually didn't fire against a bad Patriots team in the first week of the season. This year it's going to be you actually rescued your season with a Joe Flacco trade in probably beating Pittsburgh in a short week on Thursday, and then you back that up by losing to the Jets the next week when Flacco still played really well. Flacco played well enough that your season should have survived, and it didn't.
Lost to the Jets 39-38, and then the Bears 47-42. Now, that would have been a miracle comeback,
right?
But then it became a miracle comeback for the Bears.
Right.
Multiple miracle comebacks there. And, yeah, man. They're by the way, the defense is playing better for the last 2 weeks. Remember, they played tough against New England. a little bit better in this game. But Baltimore, Lamar doesn't look right still.
And the offense generally. I mean, this is the first time in his career that Lamar has had 3 straight games without a touchdown pass. Now, some of that's freaky stuff like Isaiah Likely. But this offense has not been right really all season long. And for a while, there was a stretch. I mean, his stats are still good. There was this, overall in the season. But there was a stretch where it looked great. But it's like if you just watch them, it's not the way it's supposed to. This Ravens team is not the juggernaut that it was supposed to be, even with the defense playing better than disastrous and Lamar back. It's not the Ravens people expected to see.
All right, man. So Bengals 4-8, Ravens fall to 6-6. Ravens have that Steelers game next week. Bengals have the Bills this week. Then they play again against Baltimore at home. And that's where I think if you're the Bengals and you can get through those 2 games, those are the toughest games. You have Miami, up-and-coming Miami, by the way, who has a better record than the Bengals. Miami, Cardinals, and then the Browns to finish the season. But Joe Burrow's back, and I thought he looked pretty good in the second half of this game. Anything else on this one?
Nope.
Then we get to the Black Friday game, Sam. It was underdog weekend. My picks were looking great. I picked all the underdogs. I was 4-0 on these first 4 games, Thursday and Friday, thinking these are on Thanksgiving, all 3 underdogs won outright.
Yeah.
Could it happen again on Black Friday?
My pick started badly and improved as the weekend went on.
And it did. Underdogs win again. The Chicago Bears, 24. Philadelphia Eagles, 15. Bears move to 9-3.
Not just win, but kick their ass.
Absolute beatdown on the ground, which is interesting because when you beat teams badly on the ground, it doesn't always show up in dominant points.
281 rushing yards.
Yes.
2 running backs over 120.
Some more stats for you. I had some more stats for you in a minute. 24-15. Bears get the win over the Eagles. Bears, as of right now, your number 1 seed. They'll be sitting at home. Week 1 of the playoffs with a bye. Number 1 seed in the NFC. The 9-3 Bears. Eagles fall to 8-4. Yes, Kyle Monangai, rookie running back out of Rutgers, 22 carries for $130. DeAndre Swift, 18 carries for $125. Caleb Williams had 4 first downs with his legs between scrambles and sneaks, and 281 official rushing yards for the Bears. Their running backs ran for 12 first downs compared to 1 for the Eagles and Saquon Barkley. They absolutely wrecked the Eagles up front in the trenches.
Well, there's 2 elements of this. There's the stuff that's the same from the Eagles, and then there's the new element, which is they got absolutely wrecked on the ground with the Chicago's run game. So that's the new element. That's in the last few weeks, the Eagles' defense has been phenomenal, and they've been keeping them in all these games when the offense is terrible. The Eagles' offense remained a disgrace in this game. They were 10-3 at halftime, which was a minor miracle for Philadelphia. They were booed off the field. Hurts was playing terribly, missing open targets, throwing ugly, scramble drill, double coverage interceptions. Which is one of those ones where we're not sure who he's aiming at. Like that, when the throw is bad enough that you can debate which guy he was targeting, that's usually a pretty bad sign. That was one of those. And then, the only good thing they've got going is a touchdown to A.J. Brown where he just owns a cornerback, right? Because he's still A.J. Brown. So their offense remains egregious, but the new element this week was giving up 280 rushing yards on the ground. Ollie Connolly on Twitter Hurts has been egregiously bad today. The game plan has been egregiously bad. Without Lane Johnson, the Eagles line is vulnerable. The Bears are down to their 4th and 6th string linebacker, and there's a stunning lack of design to put those guys in conflict. This offense is terrible.
Yeah, I was looking, sometimes you have a theory and you test it out and it's not right. I was trying to see how much we talked about Saquon's long runs last year and how much that affected him. So I was like, how different is the run game this year versus last year if you take those plays out? So I looked at it, and it's still pretty significant, right? I mean, it's those plays are doing the heavy lifting, and Saquon averaging almost 6 yards per carry last year, obviously, when he has 50-plus yard runs. But even if you take out any explosive plays, there's just nothing going for Philadelphia's run game. And then you see Chicago, And it's like seeing the plan come together. As I'm watching that game, I'm watching the Bears, and I think DeAndre Swift has never run better as far as decisiveness and finish.
Yeah.
And, he's already fast and quick, but he's also decisive in one cut, and he's just running the scheme extremely well. And then you have Monangai. It's like, oh, we stopped for one. No, it's 3. First down, right on, with 1 yard to go. And just running through contact. And it's, it's a little lazy to say. They've got their David Montgomery. They've got their Jahmyr Gibbs. But there is this element of the power and the speed and the differences stylistically. And then you go back to this offseason and day one of free agency, or right around even before free agency, the trade for Joe Thuney, grabbing Drew Dahlman at center, getting Jonah Jackson in a trade. And you're like, all right, they're fully invested in this offensive line. That was the first course of action. They invested in the defensive line as well. But you're just seeing it all come together for Chicago. And in this game, like Caleb Williams wasn't even great in this game. He threw an absolute back-breaking dime to go up 2 scores, which was unreal. Rolling to his left, flick of the wrist, perfect throw. But the number of there were some gimmies in there that he missed, and there were some plays that Caleb Williams would probably want back. But I'm watching this game thinking, like, you can see the whole vision coming together. The power of the Bears, the two-headed monster of a run game, and if you just get a cleaner game from Caleb Williams, which he's played at other times this year, but you put that all together, you could see the Ben Johnson offense, and the fact that they beat the Eagles up this badly was so impressive.
And Nahshon Wright continues to just make a mockery of your assessment of him as a not very good corner. The dude just decided, basically since you said he wasn't great, to go out there and make game-changing plays every week. This one, he forced fumble on the push play, just rips it away from Jalen Hurts, then goes down and recovers it under like the death pile of the push play.
Impressive play.
Which, by the way, was basically the same play as the Giants made on the Eagles earlier in the season when the officials decided that the play was over and just took it away from them. In fact, it was probably later in the play than the Giants managed it. But that's, an interesting inconsistency in the officiating. But, yeah, amazing play by Nahshon Wright, who continues to just make these spectacular game-changing turnovers week on week on week.
I'll stick to my theory that the fact that the Eagles have to practice the tush-push the way that they do affects the rest of their offense, even though it didn't last year. We'll stick with that.
But going back to that Eagles offense, it's in everything's bad. Like, Connolly's point is legit, which is the Bears' defense had a couple of fairly obvious glaring weaknesses heading into this week based off personnel, and the Eagles did almost nothing to scheme those guys into difficult situations. Like, can you imagine going back to Kyle Shanahan? If you told Kyle Shanahan that was the situation for an opposition team, they're down to 4th and 6th string linebackers. What are you going to do? Kyle Shanahan would have those guys in a blender from play one throughout the entire game, and the Eagles didn't. And then even when they've dialed something up that has an open guy, Jalen Hurts wants no part of it. Instead, he's just looking to the outside and hoping A.J. Brown's open deep down the field. Like, Dallas Goedert is running wide open over the middle, and Jalen Hurts is reading the opposite side of the field, going nowhere. So it's this combination of the scheme is terrible and Jalen Hurts is playing badly. Everything's low percentage, and it's just not going anywhere.
Yeah, and I know we talk about this a lot. We mentioned it every week. I don't know how much is the play caller and how much is the quarterback when it comes to why do they do this? Why don't they do these things? Right? I think there's a lot of times the play caller feels limited by the quarterback. And then there's other times, like Sam Darnold's career. All of a sudden, like, you could easily make the excuse if you're Kevin O'Connell last year or Clint Kubiak this year, like, Sam Darnold, he hasn't had a great career. He's limited. But then he gets to this place, and you're like, man, they're doing well by Darnold. They're putting him in position to succeed. Andy's making some huge throws. I don't think you've never had this point in your career where it's like Jalen Hurts is living in this really good offense that's well designed for him.
Yeah.
But I wonder how much of that is on him. He's had good playmakers. You could say, well, once he got A.J. Brown, his stats went through the roof, and he's been great, and he's got the tush push, and he's got all these free touchdowns that they give him at the goal line, so the stats are great. So it's a tricky situation because I think Jalen Hurts is good. I think he's done a nice job just being a winning quarterback, and that's not an overrated statement, right? You play to win, and you got to play to the strengths of your team, and I think he does that and has won for a reason, not because he's bad, but clearly there are some limitations to his game. He's not a timing and rhythm passer, right? He's going to get to the top of his drop, and it's kind of slow, and it's slow developing, and it's similar to what I just said about Burrow. It's just a low percentage, and I don't know how much of that is Hurts and how much of that's the play caller.
The fact that they didn't, dial up a bunch of stuff to attack those linebackers, I think, is a concerning thing in this game, because either the scheme doesn't do that, or is so, they're so focused on their own game that they're not even going to attack an obvious weakness of an opponent in any given week, which I think is a pretty bad thing for a coach, or the coach couldn't do that with Jalen Hurts as his quarterback. Either one of those things is bad. And from the outside, it doesn't really matter which is the case. It's the fact that it didn't happen is the bigger problem. The fact that their defense then got absolutely wrecked on the ground by the Bears' offense is just an added problem to this. But this is, they're not in trouble. They're 8-3. It's sort of like they're going to make the playoffs. But for a team that's the defending champion and the bar is Super Bowl, not playoffs, this is a team that looks closer to the collapse team than the one that won the Super Bowl.
You're absolutely right. And the way you positioned it, like a new concern, because Philly's pass defense has been really good the last couple of years with Vic Fangio. I still think they're going to be tough to throw the ball on, and combination of pass rush and the way they cover. But the run defense, Jalen Carter, Moro Ojomo, Jordan Davis, they got owned up front, those defensive tackles. Nakobe Dean, Zach Bond, the linebackers, owned by this Bears run game. The two running backs and the offensive line, the overall blocking scheme from Chicago. And it was, when we say, hey, everything looks wrong for the Eagles, everything looked right for Chicago. The running backs ran hard. They broke tackles. They blocked it well up front, and they schemed it up well too, right? It's every time there was a little bit of eye candy, it felt like the Eagles bit and it opened up holes, right? So everything was good from scheme to blocking to the runners. And that's what leads to 281 yards on the ground. It's really more than that because of Niels.
Yeah.
Almost 300 yards on the ground. And again, outside of a couple throws, Caleb Williams didn't even play a great game, and the Bears dominated up front.
And then right at the end, you've got the wrinkle of the speed that Caleb Williams has.
So fast, man.
You're already having to worry about defending two running backs that have each gone off for a $125 or whatever. And then, by the way, if we just have a naked bootleg, Caleb Williams can outrun almost anybody on your defense to the edge and get 2 or 3 or 4 yards and just keep this drive going.
All he is, his speed is unbelievable. How many times has this happened to us now in the scouting process where a quarterback comes in, and it's not even that we didn't appreciate his athleticism. It was just underrated.
Yeah.
Josh Allen's running ability was underrated. I think even Justin Fields, by the way, never really ran in college that much, but once you got to the NFL, it's like that speed is legit, and Mahomes' running ability, and now you have Caleb Williams' speed to the edge. I think the Bears could tap into that even more, because most of the time you see him as a scrambler, but you start using him in the design run game, he is.
But that was a perfect way.
He has legitimate speed.
Yeah, that was a perfect way. It's like late in the game, you're just everyone knows you're running at the clock. The Eagles are going to load up everything to stop the run game that they've already hemorrhaged 280 yards against or whatever. And then you just blip, naked bootleg, Caleb Williams keeps it, and you're like, oh, no, we're not. There's one guy with a shot of stopping that, and that one guy is probably slower than Caleb Williams. So we're done.
So really impressive by the Bears. We're already over an hour in. I don't know how much you want to bring up the down 15, go for 2 discourse, because it was an island game. Eagles are down 24-9. They score a touchdown, so it's a 15-point deficit. Now they're down 9. They go for 2 early, and the discourse starts. It gets stopped, so the Eagles are still down 9 with about 3 minutes left. Bears run out the clock. Game's over. Greg Olsen, of course.
Yeah.
comes back.
Let's just sum it up with that. I think we've had this conversation multiple times. It's easy enough. The whole point is you're going to need 2 at some point. So that's the discussion, is that you want the 2. You want to know earlier if you fail on the 2-point or not, because that's what determines the game. So Greg Olsen and then J.J. Watt, I think, articulated both sides of this debate, and it won't really shock you to learn which side each one came down on. Greg Olson, the 2-point conversation is this. Philly trail by 15. That's a 2-score game, slightly less than 50% of the time, 2-point success rate. It's a 3-score game, the remaining percentage. You want to know as early as possible how many possessions you need. That's why you go for 2 down 9. It's not debatable at all. Again, the math, the analytics says the earlier you know, the more chance you have to do something about it. If you wait until the end, you can't fix it if you don't get it. J.J. Watt responds with, analytically, that's absolutely correct. The counterpoint would be the human element of the team's mindset mentality only being down 1 score instead of 2. Right or wrong, there's some unquantifiable aspect to the belief and confidence of knowing you're only down 1 score. I actually think there's merit to both sides of that argument. I do think that this is more complicated than simply the numbers say go for 2 earlier, always follow the numbers, because I think Watt is probably right that there's something to the motivation and how you're going to play knowing that you're only down 1 score, not 2, which, though theoretically it was better to know early, is still bad. Like, you basically know at that point the game's done. My takeaway from that is the discussion that should have been had on the broadcast. But instead, we got Herb Street, so all you heard was like a muttering about analytics and like shucks, right? This stupid letdown of viewers. That's the counterpoint that should have been happening in the booth between the announcers, even if it was just the color guy articulating both sides of the argument, instead of just saying, well, I guess the numbers say go for it. I don't know why. And then on we go, right? I would have, actually waited. Like, nobody cares what you would do. Articulate the argument because that's your job.
And Olson came back with a bunch of other tweets and, walked through some of the thought process and everything, which I thought was great. I mean, Olson's basically saying, I know all this because it's my job. And he came back with one of his tweets was essentially that, right? Like, I know these percentages because that's my job to articulate it. And in this particular case, I think he agreed with the decision to go down 2. But the point is not even, like you said, for the announcers to agree with the decision.
It's just to know what the discussion is.
It's to know what the discussion is. And I think you're absolutely right. First off, there are merits on both sides of this discussion, like the human element of being within 1 score, and then the idea of if you know you're not going to get the 2-point conversion, it's better to know it earlier than at the very end of the game when you can't do anything about it. That's the whole point. And I would argue it's not even analytics really, because it's not a difference in math. It's like it's a difference in logic, because the other part of if you're down 9. And you're like, the human element, right? You're not as motivated and you're not going to get a stop. Well, the offense changes too. When they feel like they're up 2 scores, they're inherently more conservative. Just running out the clock. They're probably going to go run, and there's no chance they're even going to pass. Now, that goes both ways Sam, as well, right? Do you want the offense to go run, which is your best chance of stopping them, or do you actually want them to go run, pass, and even though they might have more of a chance to convert and they're more aggressive, you have a chance of an incompletion and you save some clock. So that goes into this as well, right? It's not just, oh man, our guys are going to feel upset that we're down 2 and we're going to take the crowd out of it, or down 2 scores. It's also, what does the offense do in turn?
Yeah.
The other part that I'll say too is a lot of former players, I think, come at this from you're less motivated to make the stop and blah, blah, blah. I think the biggest point everybody's missing is the coaches are making this decision because they think they're making the best decision to win the game.
Yeah.
Right? They're not just,
of course,
they're not just wildly picking a decision out of nowhere.
Well, the point is there's no statistical argument you can make at all on J.J. Watt's side of the argument, right? Every single data point supports the other side of the argument. And Greg Olson has articulated some of them. Like, again, this idea that you play harder knowing that it's only a 1-score game than a 2-score game. Well, all the data says that the teams actually get stops at a higher rate when they're down 9 or more, i.e. 2 scores, in those final 4 minutes than they do when they're only down 1 score. Like, the data goes the other way, if anything. It actually says that...
Olson brought the data to the table. He said when you're down 9, you're more likely to make
Right.
those stops. And that goes back to it's because the offense is probably more conservative.
Right. Now, exactly. That's the thing. Like, I think it's always a muddy picture. I don't think it's necessarily the case that J.J. Watt is wrong on this when he says that they fight harder. I think there are other factors involved. But the point is, you can only make a statistical argument in one direction. And all of the data says, go for 2 earlier. Greg is right. That's the way to do it. But I do think that there's something to the J.J. Watt side of it, which is I do think it changes how your team is going to play potentially for the better to keep it a 1-score game. The question is that enough to offset the wealth of data that goes in the opposite direction?
2 things really quick, though. It is on the coach. It's like I feel like JJ or whoever, and again, there's merits to that perspective. They're coming at it from, as if the players are like shocked by this strategy. Like, oh man, I thought we were going to be in a 1-score game and crazy coach went out, decided to go for 2. Now we're down 9 and I'm sad. Like that's the tone. I'm being a little facetious, but that's the tone. When the coaches are spending hours upon hours, presumably, over all of these decisions, and then it's their job to coach up the players. Like Dan Campbell's players know he's going to go for 4th down. And it's not just because I'm crazy Dan Campbell, I'm going for it on 4th down, and we love this. Like there's also some reasoning behind it, and there's a little meathead behind it, and it all adds up to like that's their identity and that's what they do. A good coach is going to say, listen, guys, every decision I make is to try to maximize our ability to win, and like let's be on board and trust me on this, and I'm not doing this to hang you out to dry or what. Like we're doing this to win, just like you're doing everything you can to win. So there's some coaching going on here where it's not like the analysts sometimes are taken aback because they haven't done the research or they haven't been coached up on it.
That's the big takeaways. This is still a massive failure in basic ignorance of the subject matter. Like it's a really compelling and obvious case why you go for 2 in this situation. And when Sirianni was asked about it afterwards, he articulated it in the simplest terms, which is the one, like the starting point of this conversation, which is you're going to need the 2 at some point anyway. You might as well go for it earlier because then if you need the extra possession on top of that, and that changes everything. Like it's simple. It's easy. It's very easy to articulate, and all the data supports that side of things. I think there is still, a shred of argument on the J.J. Watt side, which is, it changes the way your team plays knowing you're still only down theoretically 1 score. I mean, 2-point conversion is not, you could argue that's not 1 score, but whatever. I think there's still a case to be made. But the point is, it feels like every time this happens, like the wealth of people are still supporting why would you do that? Keep it a 1-score game. Just because all the announcers, with the exception of Greg Olsen, don't know what the argument is and nobody articulates it. So everyone's still like, why would you go for 2? That's crazy. What are they doing? I guess the analytics told them. Like everyone acts like it's a dumb, numbers-driven, spreadsheet stat thing, as opposed to like this is fairly obviously the way you should be doing it unless you believe the J.J. Watt feels offsets this. And because nobody knows, nobody hears that argument. It's just, analytics.
And it's also positioned as like there's some nerd sitting above that's like wielding all the power.
Some guy with a spreadsheet just told him to do it.
But the football coach makes the decision.
Of course.
The football guy, the guy that was hired, the football guy makes the decision, right?
Like, I agree with Greg Olsen. This is his job, and it's an egregious failing of your job if you do not. These guys are paid millions of dollars, and I think there's maybe 2 of them that can actually articulate that argument live on the spot. Everyone else just shrugs and says analytics.
So this was Olsen's follow-up here, and then we'll wrap it. He said, I've been asked why I defend these strategies or to just let it go. The answer is I take great responsibility to share the modern game and the way it's being played, not the game when I played or the way I wish it was played, the behind the scenes of what's shaping data-based decision-making used by all 32 teams, whether people are comfortable with it or not, which is, we tend to prop up Greg Olsen on here because it's not about the decision. It's just that he understands it.
Yeah.
I appreciate his willingness to understand it, and we try to understand it. The bottom line in this entire discussion, though, Sam, is we are arguing about fractions of a percentage of win probability. So the actual decision doesn't matter a ton because if you don't make the 2-point conversion as the Eagles did, you're probably screwed anyway. Whether you do it with 3 minutes left or whether you do it with 10 seconds left, if you don't make the 2, you're probably not winning. But it is a worthwhile discussion just because, for me, it didn't make sense to me. Like I say this all the time. It didn't make sense to me until someone explained it to me. until I had to think it beyond what I was used to. You're used to, you save the 2-point conversion for the end. That's just what we're used to.
Yeah.
Right? You play for the tie and you go to overtime until somebody said, what if you did it early and you sacrificed being down now? What if you did it early just in case you had to get an onside kick because if the Eagles got another drive, they would know we have to score in a minute. We can't spend 3 minutes. Right. We have to score in a minute or else the game's over.
It's such a dereliction of duty from the announcers, because the fact that you're not making that case means you've never bothered to find out. Because it's very simple. Once you've heard the explanation and it makes sense and it clicks, it's not necessarily intuitive, but once you've heard the argument, it makes a ton of sense.
And I see,
and the fact that it never gets articulated in the broadcast means that those guys who are each getting paid millions of dollars to do that job have never once asked, why does this happen?
Yes, and that's all. Greg Olson's asking questions. And like you said, he doesn't even have to. In this case, he agrees with the move. He doesn't have to agree with the move. His job is to articulate it. Our job is to articulate it. And then we could say, hey, we agree on this side or that side. That's why generally I hate when the color guy is asked, do you agree with this go for it decision?
Right.
It's like, well, this guy hasn't put the thought into it. A lot of them haven't put the thought into it. Oh, I hate this punt. I love this punt or whatever. If they've put the thought into it, great, ask them. But most of the time, they're deferred to, and they don't really have a great answer. It's a fun discussion, though. Don't let this take away from the fact that the Bears are the number 1 seed in the NFL right now. And it is a victory Monday, victory weekend, Thanksgiving weekend for the Bears, for producer Will Hagel, for Jim Hagel, for everybody, for the whole Hagel family. Victory Monday weekend for the Bears. Quick break to talk about today's sponsor, IM8. It's hard to keep up with every NFL game. We lose track of sleep. We're up live here on a 7 a.m. on a Monday. It's hard to keep those energy levels up, but that's where IM8's Daily Ultimate Essentials, that's where it comes in. Daily all-in-one wellness drink that gives my body the support it needs without juggling a bunch of different supplements. It's been co-founded by David Beckham and crafted with insight from experts at Mayo Clinic, Cedars-Sinai, and a former NASA chief scientist. It simplifies your wellness routine and makes it easier to support your health. This drink's loaded with 92 nutrient-rich ingredients and is designed to help you feel good from the inside out. What makes IM8 stand out is how it combines science with nature. They use effective ingredients and back them with research. Plus, it's been through clinical trials where 95% of participants felt more energetic and 85% said their digestion improved. It's vegan, gluten-free, and non-GMO. Also NSF certified, which means all the ingredients are third-party tested for purity. You can feel confident about what you're putting into your body, making it a solid choice if you're focused on your health. So I've enjoyed my IM8, at least what I have. My wife's stealing all of it. She loves it too. Both sachets, one per day. So we're enjoying it with our family. I'll have some more here on Wednesday during our show. Feel your best self every day with IM8. Go to im8health.com/CTM. Use code CTM for a free welcome kit, 5 free travel sachets plus 10% off your order. It's IM8HEALTH.com/CTM. Code CTM for a free welcome kit, 5 free travel sachets plus 10% off your order. IM8health.com/CTM, code CTM. Great presentation and package that they send and everything. So it's all highly recommended, part of my daily routine as well.
I mean, just like David Beckham, man's always presented well in a suit, bespoke custom tailoring, just like the packaging.
IM8 has the same presentation for you. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. We're on to Sunday. Hour and a half into
so soon.
We'll go quicker through some of these, I'm sure. Dolphins get the win, 21-17 over the Saints. Dolphins move to 5-7. Saints fall to 2-10. Dolphins were up 16-0 at one point. Tyler Shuck comes back with a touchdown to Chris Olave. They get the 2-point conversion to get within a theoretical one-score, 8-point game.
Yeah.
Dolphins came back with another field goal, but the Saints were fighting, man. They were fighting. They got within 2, 19-17, and the 2-point conversion is a pick 2. Pick 2 from Minkah Fitzpatrick to go up 4 for the Dolphins.
The rarely seen pick 2. Yeah, unfortunate play. I mean, they almost executed the comeback, and that was Zach Sealer, I think, drove. So, number one, they had Talise Fuaga had a false start. So, suddenly they're backed up
from the
5
7,
yards.
Right. Yeah.
And they're trying to get to 2 from the 7 as opposed to the 2-yard line or the 1-yard line if it gone the other direction. Zach Sealer, I think it was, drove Cesar Ruiz right into Shuck's lap. So he's under pressure. pocket collapsing, gets the ball out, just doesn't have the juice on it to get it where it needs to go. So that was unfortunate play for them. The only thing I want to talk about in this game, though, is Charlie Smith playing for the Saints. Irish kicker gets the quote-unquote start. You know, he's a kicker. I don't think the kicker start games.
Yes,
they had like a kicking competition during the week with Charlie, who'd been the, practice squad, international mascot type of player that a bunch of these teams have got. One of the first guys to go through our friend Tyke Leader's kicking program from Ireland, a former GAA player. And he obviously won the kicking competition during the week, gets the start. And then it looked like for the entire game, the Saints were going to find a way of not having him attempt to kick at all. Because, they're down, they end up down 16. So now it's 2-point conversions the whole way. Eventually, they give him a shot. His first field goal attempt is from 56, right down the pipe, plenty of room to spare, perfect kick. And then he also gets the onside kick at the end as well. They almost took it away from him on a replay, but still, you put an Irishman in there, you get an onside kick. 1-to-1 math.
Happy for Ireland.
The recovery
is
rate.
He your neighbor? Like, where's he?
Nah, he's from up the north.
Not too far north.
Well, there is no. I mean, it's a pretty small island. You can't go that far north before you run into sea.
Well, I mean, if you don't know your geography, there's further north. But anyway, yeah.
No, he's from the north.
Oh, he's from like the north? Oh, so he's not like one of you. He's not.
Well, no, he is. Complicated. We don't have time to get into that.
From the Isles.
Yes. I'm just saying, whatever the recovery rate for an onside kick is like under 5% or whatever. I mean, it's 100% if you have an Irishman as your kicker.
We're not an analytics show. We just lean on the data.
The data is unimpeachable. 100% for Irish kickers. That's a much better rate than 5%.
The number one NFL show, top 5 NFL show featuring.
I'm not saying that's actionable. I'm just saying the data speaks for itself.
Well, I'm happy for Charlie, for you, your countrymen.
We could have him on the show. Maybe maybe
we should.
The Wednesday show.
How did you do it?
Yeah. Talk us through your 56-yard. You met him, right? Didn't we?
We met Charlie.
Yeah.
Met Charlie down at the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. At the Super Bowl last year.
There's also lashing rain, by the way, in Miami, just to make him feel at home. All right, I imagine it was a good degree hotter than it normally is when it's pissing rain in Ireland, but still.
What other notes did I have on this game? Yeah, I mean, the fact that the Saints – so the Saints were down – this is when they were down 2. Down 4, and this is what I mean. They throw the pick 2, they get the onside kick, and they still have another chance.
Yeah.
And the tush-push gets stopped on 4th and 1.
Right.
The Taysom Hill tush-push, right? Was it Taysom?
Usually is.
Or was it Shuck?
I don't think it was Taysom.
No, it wasn't Taysom. He only had the 1 carry for 2.
Also, by the way,
bad day for the tush-push.
Right at the end when they got the ball back, they had the shot. Chuck kind of put the ball in Olave's hands in the end zone at the double coverage. Couldn't quite come down with it.
Chuck made a few really nice throws. He had a bad misread.
Ball got there
for an interception, but threw incomplete on 2nd and 1, and then it was Chuck that got stuffed on the tush push.
But they could have had a touchdown there. It's a hard pass to come down with, but double coverage, you can debate whether the decision was smart or not. But the ball got there in Olave's hands at the goal line, and he's not able to come down with it.
Saints fought hard, made the comeback. I thought Shuck did make a few nice throws, both touchdowns, kind of moving to his right. He's usually moved to his left guy. Yeah. Moving to his right. He had a bad misread interception by Rasul Douglas, and Tua got away with a couple. I mean, they traded turnovers on back-to-back plays early on. Tua had an interception, had a couple more, one that fell incomplete, but a couple more bad passes into coverage. Devin Achane did his usual. Toss play, touchdown, just get him out in space. And
he's so good.
He's outstanding. Achane ends up with a $134 on 22 carries. And then I wanted to shout out again Jordan Brooks, linebacker for the Dolphins. As bad as they were up front early on, I think Brooks and his physicality and what he does in the run game, working downhill, I think him and some just better play from the defensive tackles in recent weeks has helped spark this defense where they were just awful early in the season. I think Brooks has been a big part of their turnaround these last few weeks. Plus, now playing great teams. But they're 5-7 and looking
playing
better.
The Commanders and Saints offenses will help your defense turn around.
Helps a little bit. The Dolphins still alive.
Theoretically.
Still alive at 5-7.
They, I think, are in the bucket that the Bengals were in last week, which is like a smaller than 1% chance of making the playoffs. Because as we said,
They're right behind the Chiefs, one game behind Kansas City, the 11 seed Dolphins right behind the 10 seed Kansas City Chiefs.
it's a pretty important game, though. And as we said, Cincinnati's basically the only way of making it is by winning the division. Meanwhile, Miami have two better teams in their division that they're not catching. So their only chance is somehow a mathematical freak of backdooring into the last wild card spot, as opposed to the Bengals just needing whatever the math works out for them to win the division.
All right, I promised last night, too, we're in Tankathon season, tankathon.com/NFL, for your updated NFL draft odds. As of right now, the Saints are picking second. They're tied at 2-10 with the Giants and the Raiders. Giants play tonight, then have a bye, so the Giants have a chance to overtake the number 2 overall pick. But right now, the Saints are at number 2. The Titans are at number 1.
Yeah, with probably, therefore, the choice of the first quarterback off the board, unless somebody trades up to number 1 with Tennessee, because presumably the Titans aren't taking one.
Or unless they feel good enough about Chuck, who's been fine.
Yeah, but I mean, they'll at least have the choice.
But they'll have the choice, right? And
Point is that number 2 might be the first quarterback pick, as opposed to, normally that's number 1.
Or if there's someone coveted, and again, it's wide open. Is it Fernando Mendoza? Will Dante Moore come out? Is it Ty Simpson? Will Tennessee have the number 1 pick and try to trade out? And,
right.
Cleveland's got extra draft capital. The Jets have extra draft capital. So see what happens. But right now, the Saints are at number 2. Tankathon season, baby. Anything else on that game?
No, let's clear some games. That one was quick.
Gotta clear some games. Let's go New York Jets. Speaking of the Jets.
Yeah.
27-24 over the Atlanta Falcons. The Nick Folk game-winning knuckleball 56-yarder.
You don't often see a 56-yard knuckleball in the rain.
In the rain. He'd already missed a 55-yarder earlier.
Which was both wide and short.
Yeah, I didn't think he had it.
It was also like a knuckleball.
And right as soon as he kicked it, I'm like, knuckleball, no way this. And it just knuckled all the way over.
Blasted through the wind.
Golden age of
like a golf shot.
I mean,
stinger.
Even in baseball, knuckleballs used to just be this 65-mile-an-hour pitch at best. Now you've got 80-mile-an-hour knuckleballs, which is wild.
No, it's like a stinger in golf. We hit it in low and hard underneath the weather. We don't hang it up in the wind. Fire it in low.
This is Jets get the win, so they're 3-9. Falcons fall to 4-8, and it's another game where you're like, man, Bijan ran well, and Cousins had 234 passing yards, about 90% of which came after the catch. But you're like, man, they did a good job in a weather game in New York, getting the ball to Kyle Pitts in space, to Bijan in space, Tyler Algier. They did a nice job offensively, but the Falcons can't get out of their own way. They muffed a punt.
You really can.
They gave up an 85-yard kickoff return. This goes both ways. It's like bad ball from the Falcons, and the Jets' special teams giving them some opportunities, and that's why they pulled off the win.
Yeah, I mean, the kick return is definitely arguable both ways. I mean, the Jets have had some, decent returns this season, so I think they have some good return guys. However, your coverage unit also controls that as well. The muff punt, though, is just that's just shooting yourself in the foot. I mean, the Jets end up scoring from that they go 7-0 up from a failed drive, essentially, right? Like, those are the plays you can't have. We keep having this, this discussion of your special teams doesn't need to be good. It just needs to be not the reason you're losing games.
Yes.
When you're muffing punts and literally putting 7 points on the board effectively, when the defense is held, when the defense is forced an offensive failure on that drive, you can't overcome many of those in a game, particularly not when Kirk Cousins is your quarterback. The Falcons shot themselves in the foot too many times in this game to escape.
Yeah, the muff punt at the beginning. And then, look, the Falcons, credit the Jets. They never gave up. Tyrod Taylor with an incredible scramble to tie it for a 10-yard touchdown.
Tyrod,
whatever. Had some luck in there, too. Hit his arm, had his arm hit in his throwing motion. Ball popped up.
Weird-looking throw.
To Alan Lazard. But you got A.D. Mitchell.
There's also a play. Do you see the play where James Pierce is about to sack him and only gets his sleeve? Grabs hold of him and basically ends up ripping his sleeve clean out, and Tyrod keeps going. Like, you don't see that too often.
You don't.
You see it every now and again with the tear away from like the bottom of the the bottom of the jersey.
Yeah.
He gets hold of that. But this was like he had hold of his sleeve, and then suddenly Tyrod is still going and only has one sleeve because the sleeve is detached.
A.D. Mitchell with the best game of his career.
Yeah.
8 catches for 102, including the 52-yarder behind the defense. Heavily targeted. And again, like for a guy that's shown so much potential, and maybe Tyrod is the guy that unlocks him, it is great for the Jets as a buy low to see what he could become. There's still more to add to that receiving core. But if A.D. Mitchell can be a part of your future with Garrett Wilson, a game like this was really impressive for him.
Yeah. I mean, again, he's athletically extremely talented. The Mike Hughes ends up tripping, as he said. It's one of those ones where it's a deep shot over the top, kind of post route against the outside corner. And then Mitchell kind of backs up a little bit to let the ball get there, slows up a touch to let it arrive. And then when he reaccelerates, like Hughes basically trips over that little sequence. I don't know how intentional that was, sort of, hey, I got to back up this corner to jump into the space, or just it's an underthrown ball, I'm adjusting to it and I'm slowing up, and that happened to send Mike Hughes face first into the turf. Either way, it worked, and it was a great game from Mitchell.
The other thing that happened in this game, it was a go-ahead touchdown from Kirk Cousins to David Sills.
Yeah, of course.
Former Lane Kiffin recruit. On a day which Lane Kiffin kicked off the witching hour with his announcement that he was officially taking the head coaching job at LSU. Within the same hour, David Sills, his former 13-year-old quarterback recruit over about 15 years ago, Sills scores a touchdown.
I cannot believe David Sills is still in the league.
Yeah.
I also can't believe he's only 29.
So when he was 16 years ago, he was Lane Kiffin's 13-year-old quarterback recruit at USC.
Right.
By the time he got to college, he was merely a receiver for West Virginia.
Yeah.
And still in the NFL here.
Somehow. And still making touchdowns.
He had a key drop on the comeback attempt as well. But another game. Jets playing hard. I mean, the Falcons continue to not make sense. Like in a day where I thought they did a nice job. I thought Kyle Pitts looked really good. Bijan, 51 yards as a receiver, including a 42-yarder. And some of his runs, again, 23 carries for $142, just slaloming through the defense, looking great, and they can't capitalize on anything.
Yeah, I know Falcons, huge disappointment this season. I mean, they're just losing games that they should not be losing based off the opponent. And, I mean, they're going to be in trouble off the back if this continues. Number one, they're shipping a really high draft pick to the Rams. That's never going to look good optics-wise. But number two, they're going to be under a lot of pressure in terms of keeping jobs in that building based off how this season went relative to expectations. The Jets are still fighting hard. They're still, they won the game, so it's hard to be too critical. I do feel like play calling wise, they're coaching a little scared. Like they had a 4th and 4 down in the red zone, and ended up like doing the whole, let's try and bait them offside, and then let's just take it to late game and kick a field goal. It's like, you're 2 and whatever before this game. Like, why? What's the downside to being a little bit risky and going for it? Like, they're coaching scared, even though they've got nothing to lose.
So they moved to 3-9, tankathon. Jets are picking 7th as of right now. The Falcons have the 9 pick, which is going to the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have the 9th pick.
The 9th pick. Well, they have the 9th draft position.
Right.
That has been given to the Rams. I think that's season over for Atlanta. I mean, if there was every team that's sitting there with like 6 or 7 wins, it's like, all right, you could still win out and be 10-7 or 11-6, and like theoretically that's still on the table. But you lose this one for Atlanta, that's another heartbreaker for them. What do we have next? Where are we? Oh, this is a good one. Yeah. Texans Colts. Texans get the win, 20-16 against the Indianapolis Colts. Texans move to 7-5, Colts to 8-4. With the Jags win, the Colts are now tied atop the AFC South at 8-4. I know the Jags are technically in first place. It doesn't really matter. Tiebreakers at this point. They're playing this week, so the Jags and Colts now 8-4 in the South, and the Texans 7-5, right on their back, right behind them. Some officiating questions in this one. C.J. Stroud came back. That was a fun back-and-forth game here. Good AFC South game.
It was, yeah. And, really the main battle, I think, is the Houston defense, which has been so good the last few weeks against this Colts offense, which began the season as an absolute unstoppable juggernaut and hasn't been the last couple of weeks. And you've got this, strength against strength debate heading into the game. But then you have the wrinkle of during the week it emerged that Daniel Jones is playing through a broken fibula, fractured fibula. Which is the outside of the smaller of the two bones in your lower leg, the outside one, the little gimpy one. And from some medical people on Twitter, it seems that if that's ever a thing, that you play through a fracture in your fibula, it's like the tiny bit at the bottom that overhangs your ankle bone. It's not like, mid bone has got a crack in it.
Right.
It's like the tiny bit at the bottom, there's a crack somewhere in that, and technically that's a fractured fibula. Basically, the guy's got a sore ankle. However, when you saw the video, it's like he's fairly well limping on that thing. And that sounds like a bad injury to be playing through. So you've got this added wrinkle of like how much of the Daniel Jones downturn in the last few weeks is he's playing through a pretty significant injury.
It's a fair question. How much is the injury? And then the question I asked last night on our instant reaction, well, how much of that is part of the Daniel Jones experience? The fact that he's had some injury issues throughout his career and, health is somewhat of a skill when it comes to quarterback and, not taking hits and what have you. I thought Jones actually made a bunch of really nice throws in this game as well, though. Still a little something missing. It's tough against this Texans defense. A little something missing from this Colts offense. And then you have stuff like yesterday across the league, tight ends in QB sneak / tush push situations, dropping the ball or getting stuffed or whatever it might be. Tyler Warren did that in the red zone early in the game. That was a big factor for the Colts, leaving potential points on the board.
I feel like that part is starting to get inexcusable. If you are a team that is going to use your tight end as the push play player, that guy needs to be spending enough time taking an exchange from a center that he never drops the ball.
Don't drop the snap. Can't drop the snap. Anyway, good back and forth game. Like Stroud, Tyler Warren drops the tush push. Stroud comes back with an overthrow interception, one of his worst throws of the game, where I thought Stroud played well overall. Daniel Jones hit Alex Pierce on a nice little fade for a touchdown. Pierce, made some nice catches in this one, adjusting to the ball. Woody Marks came back with a big run that set up Nick Chubb touchdown. The Texans were up 10-6. It was 13-6. Josh Downs had a nice drive, and that was one of the best throws Daniel Jones made. 3rd and 10, dime along the sideline to Josh Downs on a drive where I thought Downs had at least 2 big conversions, including this one. And then they immediately just flipped the field. 3rd and 19, pass interference, set up a Tyler Warren touchdown. It's a tie game. And the Texans used Nico Collins on an end around to take the lead. And then it's 20-16. Colts give their offense a shot, so the Texans try their hand at tight end sneaks. Cade Stover on 3rd and 4th down gets stopped, and the Colts have a chance. And then they drive down, and the Texans defense just makes the stop, 4th and 9 overthrow. And that was pretty much the game for Houston.
I mean, that's the bottom line of this game is that was the side that I think determined the game, strength on strength, the Houston defense against Indianapolis offense, and the Colts had the ball in their hands late in the game with a score to get and couldn't get it. I mean, the Texans defense won that battle. Alec Pierce also had a pass breakup. Do you see that? He was he was on the field for the halftime Hail Mary that the Texans attempted, and he was the guy that launched himself above everybody else, broke it up.
He did. And that final drive, Colts picked up a couple first downs. They're at the Texans 32, and Daniel Jones overthrows Pierce on 2nd down, and then 3rd and 4th down, the Texans send a little pressure, 5- and 6-man pressures. I thought it sped Jones up just a little bit, but he got it like 3rd down. He put the ball in Josh Downs' hands, who drops it, kind of weird, falls over, drops it.
Slipped, on the way.
So that at least should have put them into like 4th and short at worst. If he caught it and went upfield, he actually could have picked up a 1st down, and then 4th and 9, an overthrow. I thought it was just a good example of, Josh Downs should have caught the ball, but the Texans defense just speeds you up, puts a little pressure on you. They're aggressive. We've seen D'Amico Ryans in that defense be very aggressive with the game on the line through his couple of few years there. And Houston's pass rush, or just their perceived pass rush, once again, is huge in helping them win. The other parts of this game, Sauce Gardner was injured very early.
Yes.
He's got a calf injury. It's not supposed to be. It's not season ending or anything, but we're at the end of the season. You miss a couple weeks.
It looked really bad. Like he came up gimpy mid-play, limped off straight to the locker room. Couldn't even really walk on it. Was like helped in. Two guys either side of him, basically walking him in. It's apparently a calf injury. They don't believe it's an Achilles injury, which is the obvious sort of concern when that type of thing happens. They're going to have an MRI today to get more clarity on it, but it sounds like it's a sort of shortish term thing as opposed to that looked bad initially.
And then I want to touch on what went well for Houston, what I saw from Stroud, but also the phantom PI call and the no call on the delay of game. But C.J. Stroud goes 22 of 35 for 276, had the overthrow for an interception, no touchdowns, but I thought he looked good in his return. I thought I'm watching the Texans. The Colts didn't blitz a ton, but when they sent extra pressure on, say, third downs, like that was the place when C.J. Stroud and this offense, the offensive line had issues the last 2 years. We've talked about that so many times on this show. But go back and watch. There's a few plays. Woody Marks, the rookie running back, who is known for his pass protection, just overall pass game ability, catch the ball out of the backfield and block, steps up and makes a couple incredible blocks on third downs. I thought the Texans had answers against blitz packages. I thought they did a nice job. I thought Stroud did a really nice job getting the ball to Jaden Higgins, to Nico Collins a few times. Higgins, 5 catches on 5 targets for 65 yards.
They were killing the Colts with in-breaking routes over the middle.
Yeah.
Nico Collins, Jaden Higgins, like that, Dalton Schultz, that's where they were wrecking them.
So I thought, some of those questions before Stroud got hurt, remember the Seattle game where they just, missed opportunities. Stroud's playing sped up. I thought he looked good. And they're set up now where there's a little bit of a run game. Woody Marks, Nick Chubb. They're unlocking Jaden Higgins as a complement now to Nico Collins. And if Stroud can get the ball out and get the ball to those guys, I think the offense is in much better shape than it was earlier this year. Now, you've got this early fourth quarter. There was a play clock issue, right? The snap goes off with 0 on the play clock, and there's a bit of a phantom defensive pass interference call. Colts fans were not pleased by that.
Yeah.
J.J. Watt, very objective as a former Texan, which is, his job to be objective, but was saying, hey, look, I think he wanted the delay of game call. That was on 3rd and 15 and set up, what did it? Yeah.
The delay of game
thing for Nico Collins.
It's always a fuzzy line because the mechanism for that is the guy, like the official's looking at the clock, and when it hits 0, he then looks down at the line and see there's a delay.
It didn't. I think I've seen more egregious ones than that. The pass interference on 3rd and 15, though, it's a game changer.
Yeah,
it's the difference between a field goal and a touchdown. And so, look, it's easy to say, look, the Colts are collapsing and they lose to the Chiefs, and they did. The second half was a collapse for the Colts from their perspective last week against the Chiefs, going 3 and out 4 straight times between the fourth quarter and overtime, and allowing the Chiefs to come back and win. That was a big missed opportunity. It's easy to just say, well, they did it again, but that call's a tough one. That ended up being the difference in the game.
Yep.
Same thing, but the Texans are not what they were earlier this year, and man, they're playing Kansas City this week. Going to Kansas City earlier in the year, coming into the season, thought the Texans had a chance to compete with those best teams, and here's your opportunity: 7-5 Texans, 6-6 Chiefs, Sunday night in Kansas City with an opportunity to knock them out of the playoffs, essentially.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's a playoff game in Kansas City, and it's a battle for first place in the division, Colts-Jags, next week in Jacksonville, right? Where the Colts never win.
It's got to be like the rest of the NFL rooting for Texans to knock Kansas City out of the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely. The entire AFC, and then it's like, then it's like Bills, Patriots, probably everybody's going to feel like they've got, all right, Super Bowl path is ours. So the Texans have a chance here. And I think their defense is legit, number 1 in points allowed. You feel this every week. You feel their pass rush. You feel it married with the coverage. Colts made some some big tight window throws to keep it alive. But Texans defense, man, they step up when they need to, and they look great.
Yep.
And they complement it with a good game from C.J. Stroud. Anything else on this one? You're ready.
Nope.
You're ready to move on. What's next for me? FanDuel. You know how fast NFL game days move. One big play, and everything changes. That's why live betting on FanDuel is a game changer. With FanDuel, you can bet in real time while the game unfolds. Score just flipped, jump on a new spread or a live money line. Receivers heating up, bet the next touchdown scorer or total yards. Think that drive stalls in the red zone? Well, you could take a live field goal prop or fade the total. Live player props, team totals, drive results, updated spreads, next play markets. It's all there. It's fast, it's fun, and with FanDuel, your live bets move as quickly as the game does. So whether you're riding momentum or fading the hype, FanDuel puts you right in the middle of every moment. Visit FanDuel.com/33rd to download the app and bet the NFL live all season long. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Paid endorsement. The Panthers do it again, Sam. Surprising everyone. 31-28 over the Rams. Panthers move to 7-6. Rams fall to 9-3. You were joking. Panthers looking awful on Monday Night Football. You just made a little joke. They'll probably beat the Rams this week. The Rams, everybody's number one team. Everybody's number one power-ranked team. No one's looking better than the Rams. Both sides of the ball. Great defense. Great offense. MVP Matthew Stafford. And the Panthers pull the upset.
I'm so mad. I'm so annoyed that I knew this was going to happen and still picked against.
Clarify, you're only mad about your pick, not about the Panthers. You're not anti-Panthers.
No, I'm mad about the Panthers.
I'm mad
that they make no sense and that this is ridiculous. A guy called Dan G, messaged me on Blue Sky and said, one measure of genius is recognizing a brilliant idea's truth even when you don't understand how or why it could possibly be true. And I think that's, there's an element of that. Only I think there's an extra element, which is you've got to avoid the inner idiot in your brain shouting you down. And that's what happened here. I recognized the obvious truth, which is, of course, Carolina were going to end up winning against the Rams, having just been awful the week before, and the Rams, everybody's universal best team in the NFL. Of course, Bryce Young was going to go out there and ball out, and the Panthers are going to find a way of winning that. It doesn't matter that I don't know why or how. That's irrelevant. The point is, it was obviously going to happen. I just needed to avoid my inner moron shouting me down and still picking the Rams.
We had talked about the games where the Panthers lose, and it's early turnovers that do them in, and they flipped that script in this game.
That's the thing. It didn't even work along the lines of the other games. If you were trying to find any pattern from Carolina's games this season, which itself is like a futile exercise, the one thing you would identify is if and when they struggle, they dig themselves an early hole and they can't crawl out of it. Well, this game, they dug themselves an early hole, and then they crawled out of it.
I think this game, ready for me to simplify it for you?
5
plays.
5 plays.
5 plays.
Okay.
Because, look, in between these 5 plays, the Rams played great football. The usual their offense was tough to stop. Defense overall was pretty good. The 5 plays, Stafford comes into the game with 2 interceptions. Then he throws one in the end zone, and then and it's like, all right, you always play in this underdog versus the heavy favorite. How are they going to pull this off? Okay,
which was
batted.
Right?
One red zone interception.
He throws it off Derek Brown's face and ends up deflecting into a guy's hands for an interception. He'd gone 28 straight touchdowns between interceptions, which was a new NFL record. Brady at some point had 27. And as you said, 2 interceptions coming into the game, and then that was the first of 2 in this game.
So that's in the red zone. Panthers come back, the little swing screen to Chuba Hubbard. It's 7-7. So the 5 plays: interception in the red zone, then a pick 6.
Yep.
Bad read from Stafford. Michael Jackson pick 6, put the Panthers up 14-7. Then you have 2 of the Panthers' touchdowns came on 4th down. Is that right?
Yeah.
4th and 3.
And they were both like 40 yards.
This is like, all right, the Panthers are down 4. It's in, third quarter. It's 4th and 3. The Rams are the better team, right? They're going to make this stop. No, the Panthers come back. Beautiful throw, Bryce Young to Jalen Coker on 4th and 3 for a 33-yard touchdown. Rams remain unstoppable. Puka Nacua makes their great one-handed catch, blah, blah, blah. That isn't even one of the 5 plays.
Right.
So it's the 2 interceptions, 4th and 3 touchdown, and then a 4th and 2 touchdown. Bryce Young to Teteroa McMillan behind the defense, behind Emmanuel Forbes, who'd been balling, 43-yarder. That put the Panthers up 31-28, but it's not over yet. This is the Rams. Their offense is great. They drive down. They're in field goal range in play number 5 that changed this entire game. The Rams in field goal range on 3rd and 10. It was 3rd and 5. They false started. But on 3rd and 10, Matthew Stafford strip sacked by Derek Brown, and the Rams didn't see the ball again. That was one of those plays where, you know, if he just gets sacked, they're kicking a field goal. It's a tie game. Obviously, the Rams still have a chance to win. Panthers would have a chance to go for the game winner, but they sealed it. And then, you know, they go for it on 3rd down. Bryce Young converts it to end the game. Rams never have enough timeouts in the second half either. That affected their comeback attempt. But those 5 plays, 2 Stafford interceptions, 2 4th down touchdowns by the Panthers, a 3rd down strip sack by Derek Brown. A lot of other cool stuff happened in between, but 5 massive high leverage plays that the Panthers won. They won those plays, and that's what won them the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. In most baseline ways, the Rams were a better football team, but they turned the ball over 3 times. The Panthers also had those couple of massive high leverage 4th down conversions, and that's it. Like, the Rams were the less penalized side. They moved the ball easier. They had a much more significant average yards per play. They were the better team in a lot of areas, but all of the high leverage plays went Carolina's way.
I didn't. I should have seen earlier. Did Bryce Young have that look in his eye? I don't know. Maybe after the first 4th down, he did. After the first 4th down to Coker, I thought he did. He had the look in his eye. But man, he made some huge plays. That was the only catch for Teteroa McMillan, the 43-yarder. They shortened the game a little bit too. Like, I know the Rams. The Rams scored. They only punted once, and they had the 3 turnovers. Like, that's what they did. But they moved the ball in between. The Panthers did shorten the game a little bit. They ran
the ball like 35 times between their 2 running backs. Like, that was the game plan. And Bryce Young, normally when they have a game like this, Bryce Young has a random game where he pops off for 300, 400 yards. This was a more conventional Bryce Young stat line, barely snuck over 200. But they ran the ball an absolute ton with those guys, Hubbard and Dowdle. But
the second time in a few weeks now, he's gone over 10 yards per attempt. Every time Bryce Young goes over 10 yards per attempt, they're going to win. If he doubles his yards per attempt total on the season, the Panthers will be fine. No, I really thought that their ball control style, you know, some of those just, 3 yards to go and they pick up 3, just held on as far as controlling the clock enough to shorten the game and give them the opportunities to force those turnovers. So, look, I think from both perspectives, Panthers remain extremely confusing. And at one point,
utterly unhinged,
because they're heading to their bye, and they've got the Saints coming out of the bye, who they lost to 17-7, which is part of the confusion, right? The Panthers have beaten the Packers, they've beaten the Rams, they've beaten some of the best teams in the NFC. They also looked completely helpless against the 49ers despite forcing 3 turnovers. They looked helpless against the Saints in the middle of this. They lost to the Bills by 1 million. So who knows what you're going to get from Carolina. But they do have this golden opportunity with a bye and only 4 games left. 1 against the Saints, 2 against the Bucs. They'll probably beat the Seahawks in the middle of there too. But most of their season is going to come down to beating the Bucs. I would spend their entire bye studying the Bucs, who they have to play in weeks 16 and 18.
Ben Solak had a tweet that basically explains Carolina. He said, "Explain the Panthers' last 7 games to me like I'm 5. They snuck past the Jets on the road, 13-6. They get absolutely eviscerated by the Bills at home, 40-9. They beat the Packers on the road, 16-13. They lose to the Saints at home, 17-7. They then beat up on the Falcons again, 30-27, again on the road.
With a massive comeback.
Right. Then lose to the defenseless 49ers, 20-9 on the road, and then beat the Rams, everybody's best team in the NFL, 31-28 in like a shootout. No logic. It makes no sense. And none of it makes any sense.
I mean, early in the season, it was home road splits, and then all that flipped, too.
And the coin toss, there is no pattern to the Carolina season this year. None. There was, and every pattern has been broken. Now there is no pattern. It's just random.
Huge win for them heading into their bye. And Bryce Young made some huge throws when they needed it. From a Rams perspective, I think it's like weird game, weird team that you played. No panic. It affects the number. It affects the seeding. I mean, It's a huge game when it comes to the standings. They're at 9-3, tied with the Bears at 9-3, tied with the Seahawks at 9-3. They're going to play mid-December on a Thursday night rematch. So it affects the seeding for the NFC. But I still think Stafford's, outside of a couple throws, playing great.
Yeah, I mean,
Offense
if they have any
excellent.
sense.
Yeah, they're fine.
If they have any
Stafford should
sense.
still probably be the MVP favorite despite this. Like, it doesn't have to be a horse race thing just because he threw 2 picks in this game. Like, they're still fine. Stafford's still playing the best football of any quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. So, just a weird game, and always Sean McVay do a better job with your second half timeouts.
Their analysis of this game should be the same as everybody else's, which is evidently the Panthers are dealing with some kind of witchcraft, and it doesn't mean anything. Let's throw it out. It's irrelevant. Don't even look at the tape. It's pointless. It was a freak. It makes no sense for anybody. Let's move on.
I made this point last night, though, on the instant reaction. In a league, right now the league feels wild and crazy. This is, I think, a huge chunk of it. You could point to all these little things like there's fewer offensive and defensive plays because of the kickoff returns. The kickoff returns are having a huge impact. Look at the Jets game. I would add just fourth down variance overall. Even the best teams, it's really hard to be the best team on fourth down. And so when underdogs simply win the fourth down matchup, like when they win these one-off high leverage plays, you get upsets, you get weird results. Sometimes it actually goes the other way where a game becomes a blowout that shouldn't have been. And so in this world where like the league is more condensed, it feels like, talent-wise, you have games like this where it's just fourth down leverage. Like if the Panthers don't make if one of those fourth downs doesn't even go forget a first down, a touchdown, this game changes dramatically.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a big part of teams that feel average being 9-3, teams that feel great being 6-6, or a 6-6 Chiefs team. Like you just have high leverage plays going either way, and that's the NFL right now, which is exciting. But that's what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
You had no more use for this game?
Nope.
Wow, it's already 9. It's a full slate of games, which is why.
Yeah.
Bucks get the win in the NFC South. So there was a minute here where the Panthers could have seen a Bucks second half collapse put them in first place, but it didn't happen. Bucks win 20-17. They got up early and then handled the comeback attempt from the Cardinals. It was 20-10 in the fourth. A nice little Jacoby Brissett to Trey McBride touchdown got it to 20-17. The Bucks punt, play defense, and force a 4-and-out from Arizona to seal the win. Bucks move to 7-5. Cardinals fall to 3-9.
Yeah, an impressive performance from them, if nothing else, because Baker Mayfield played pretty well through that shoulder injury. I assumed the way they were talking, and even Baker was saying, like, I got to be smart. If it's the difference between me playing later and being good, got to protect myself. And you're like, okay, finally, somebody's seen some sense. And Baker's not going to play and risk that shoulder. And then he's out there, like, snap one, playing and changing nothing. Like, still scrambling, still taking hits, still, like, putting himself at risk. But it didn't seem to be affecting him at all. He still played really well. He still made a bunch of plays. It was good version of Baker Mayfield. His stat line, I think, should have been better than it actually was. I mean, Chris Godwin drops a touchdown on an absolute laser in the end zone.
That was a 4-point drop, too.
Yeah.
That was a absolute dime from Baker.
Baker played really well, and it was enough to win when the defense held up its end of the bargain.
Besides that drop, I thought, Godwin added another nice element to the offense, just another dependable outlet. He had 78 yards on just 3 catches. A couple big plays in there for Baker Mayfield. Emeka Egbuka, he overcame a drop. He had his 4 catches. Bucky Irving made his return for the Bucs as well.
And that's another, they I mean, Bucky Irving is their lead back. During the week, they'd been like, yeah, we'll see how he goes, and then we'll go with the hot hand between the three of them. And, no, it's Bucky Irving's backfield, and maybe we'll get the other two the occasional touch. But if Bucky Irving's good to go, Bucky Irving gets the workload.
And I think it makes sense, man. I know, like, Sean Tucker's got this power element to him, and Rachaad White has been more consistent than he was early in his career, but Bucky's a big play threat. And he didn't break one, and this one had a nice touchdown run. But continuing to feed Bucky Irving, I think, makes a lot of sense and adds some more dynamism to this offense that, is still missing Mike Evans as a big play threat, right? And you hope he comes back, and with Godwin and Ibuka, and now Jalen McMillan's got his practice window opened. They're setting up for their showdowns with Carolina, and Baker's got to play more consistent and cleaner. I thought, again, he played pretty well in this one that the stat line doesn't show, but they need to be set up for those two Panthers games. That's what the division's going to come down to.
It is, and that's why, I expected them really to rest Baker in this game, and they didn't. But they won the game even despite that. He played well. They won the game. Buys them a little bit of breathing room.
Another really pass-heavy game script for the Cardinals, 29-40 for Jacoby Brissett. Marvin Harrison Jr. made his return. He had 6 catches. He also left the game early as well with an injury, but looked pretty good in his return. He had a bad miss from Jacoby Brissett, which is a big part of the game. Marvin Harrison Jr. was open for a potential touchdown. Brissett overthrows him. Then they missed a field goal, which I thought was a big factor here. That set up Bucky's 13-yard touchdown, put the Bucs up 17-3, and they never, it got close, but that was a big turning point in this game for Arizona if they were going to pull the upset.
Yeah, they had a couple of sort of mistakes that cost them. There was that. The interception from Brissett was ugly. It could have been intercepted by the first guy. Jamel Dean deflects it to Antoine Winfield Jr., who ends up picking it off. It was bad enough that Jamel Dean might have been able to pick it off himself. So that was pretty rough. The Bucs obviously also we got a big man touchdown. The thick six. Tristan Wirfs.
Not a thick six. No,
that's not a thick six.
That's a pick six. That's from someone thick.
It's a big man. A large man scoring of any description?
I don't don't think so. I think that's only for pick sixes.
I don't think that's true. I think it's just a
300-pounder
scoring a touchdown.
I think it's just a.
We'll have to get a ruling from Mike Golick Jr.
Golick. We'll get Golick to. We'll have the Bugler will investigate
again. It's a lot of
add that is what is a we need an official thick six. It hit my brain too, like thick six, and then I corrected myself in my own brain yesterday. I was like, that's not a thick. That's got to be a pick six.
I think it is.
I think it's just a big man touchdown.
I think you're wrong. I know you of all people should be trying to expand the definition.
Not that big. Tristan Wirfs wide open for a touchdown, and then Jacoby Brissett's an interesting quarterback. A lot of intermediate chunk plays that he's created this entire season, really, for Arizona. But they just had an awful game-winning drive attempt. They started at their 9. They got it to 3rd and 2, and just 2 non-competitive incompletions on 3rd and 2 and 4th and 2, and the game was over. Bucs were sitting on some routes, but they just didn't even have a chance. So, anyway, Cardinals fall to 3-9. They continue to lose one-score games, feeling like a team that's better than a 3-9 team, and the Bucs continue to survive, holding on to a half-game lead over the Panthers in first place. Panthers head to their bye, so Bucs have a chance to go up a full game next week with a win.
Yep.
All setting up for the 16 and 18 showdowns against the Panthers.
Yeah, it's a big game. I mean, it buys them effectively the ability to lose one of those games and still be okay, as opposed to, previous, if they'd lost this, they'd have been in dead level with them.
Anything else on this one?
Nope.
Jacksonville Jaguars, 25. Tennessee Titans, 3. Jags get the win, move to 8-4, technically in first place now in the AFC South. Titans fall to 1-11. Jags got up early and never looked back. It was 7-3, and then what was it? Muff punt. They fumbled. Titans fumble, kickoff return. Jags come right back. Nice throw, Trevor Lawrence to Brenton Strange for a 21-yarder. They're up 15-3. They went for 2 after a penalty. 18-3 at the half after a nice end-of-half drive to set up Cam Little's 45-yard field goal. And pretty dominant here from the Jags. As optimistic as I was watching Cam Ward these last couple weeks, this offense went right back into disgusting mode.
Yeah. They had nothing going on either side of the ball, really. DK has been a like a good return man for them generally. And when he's fumbling the ball away on the kick return, it's like that. I mean, we're done. Very early in this game, I think it became pretty obvious this was how the game was going to go. This was going to be a fairly conclusive win where Tennessee probably doesn't get much going at all. The Jags score some reasonable number of points, and they're just out in the distance by multiple scores. I mean, it was a game. It wasn't a contest for basically the entirety of the game.
I think the big story in this one for Jacksonville, Jacoby Myers, 6 catches on 6 targets, including a 50-yarder, wide open over the middle of the field, catches another touchdown, so he has 6 for 90 yards. I thought, Trevor Lawrence goes 16 of 27 for 229 and 2 touchdowns. His best throw probably dropped by Austin Trammell, which, adds another 30 yards to that stat line. I thought it was the cleanest Trevor Lawrence game from start to finish for a while. And look, they were up early, didn't have to force a whole lot or anything, but cleanest start to finish game for Trevor Lawrence in a while. And I am continuing to be impressed by the connection with Jacoby Myers, the return of Brenton Strange over these last couple weeks at tight end. Brian Thomas came back, had a couple catches, but they're not feeding him or forcing him as a number one. I'm feeling pretty good about this Lawrence to Myers connection, and you're already seeing, Jags fans and or media saying, like, lock him up. He's a free agent at the end of the year. And I think it's a fascinating story now because you've got Travis Hunter coming back. Do you bring Myers back as a free agent? You have Brian Thomas Jr. heading into year 3 next year. Parker Washington's still there, who left in, with an injury in this game. But receiving corps starting to come together. And I really love this connection between Myers and Lawrence right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good group now. Like, even without Travis Hunter, you've got the dynamic, sort of explosive threat of Brian Thomas Jr. You've got Jacoby Myers, who's the more move the chains, possession type receiver. Parker Washington, Brenton Strange, the backfield. Like, this is a talented group of skill position players with Travis Hunter injured, ready to come back in the lineup at some point. And maybe he steps into the Jacoby Myers role. Maybe They do keep Myers and they have the 3 of them. It's a good group. Like, this is why I think some of the frustration is there with Trevor Lawrence that overall this season he should be better because this is a good group to work with.
Yeah, Jags had some big plays over the middle of the field. Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers for the 50. And, again, I thought it was the cleanest game Lawrence played in a while. Yeah, it was against the Titans. The Titans were in a hole early on. If you're looking for just a positive storyline for Tennessee, the fact that Cam Ward was coming off this excellent game for him, just excellent game overall against Seattle's defense, that was encouraging. But 24 of 38 for just 141, that's 3.7 yards per attempt. Back to just little rhythm, deep dropbacks, not a lot of completions to be had, nothing down the field, just ugly offense from the Titans. And I know they've got their receiver issues and injuries, and it's this no-name group of pass catchers, but kind of ugly again for Tennessee.
Yeah, it was bad. And the game script got away from them immediately. They were in a hole. Now the offense, thrown out the window. Like, their 2 best players on offense outside of Cam Ward are the running backs, and you can't really use them much when you're down 2 scores like immediately. So just a rough game.
Do we have in the rundown, I think we're missing Niners-Browns. So they're going to be next for us.
The Shador game?
To Will. It's in my notes. It's next in my notes, and then we're on to the 4 o'clock. Oh, wait, we're missing 2. No, we got it. Then we're on to the 4 o'clock games. But first, quick break to talk about our friends over at Root Insurance. Root Insurance believes that good drivers deserve better rates, so they've created a new kind of car insurance that rewards good drivers in an easy-to-use app. Traditional car insurance companies focus on demographics like age, zip code, occupation, and credit score to price your coverage. When Root offers a rate, your behavior behind the wheel gets more weight than any other single factor. They didn't use occupation or education level to negatively affect your rate. While you drive, Root gathers and analyzes data from your smartphone sensors. After a few weeks, you'll get a car insurance quote based primarily on your driving. Save up to 44% off your initial Root quote after you take the test drive. If you need a tow truck, jump start, or you lock your keys in the car, Root will cover the help you need to get back on the road when you opt into roadside assistance. The Root app makes it easy to edit your coverage, update your policy, or file a claim in just 3 minutes. You can get started today at Root.com. All right, let's go. San Francisco 49ers 26-8 win over the Cleveland Browns. Niners move to 9-4. Browns fall to 3-9. Niners got up early, 7-0 on a McCaffrey touchdown. Browns took the lead 8-7. Nice 90-yard drive. Shedeur Sanders hits Harold Fannin Jr. for a 34-yard touchdown. They had a penalty on the extra point, go for 2 from the 1-yard line, go up 8-7. But it was all Niners after that point. A couple key fourth down stops from San Francisco. They get up 23-8 into the fourth quarter. Never really looked back. Niners taking care of business in another tough passing condition, windy game in Cleveland.
Yeah, another game where I think special teams screwed the Browns. Not another game where special teams specifically for the Browns, but another game where special teams was a big problem. And again, special teams doesn't need to be great; just needs to be the reason you're not losing games. So they cough up a big punt return to Sky Moore earlier in the game, which sets San Francisco up in great position. And then I think what was the real turning point of the game is a fair catch, muff punt from Larverdale. Brutal turnover, instant red zone for the 49ers. The Browns defense holds them out for like 4 or 5 plays or something. Then eventually they can't stop them. They get a touchdown. It was 17-8 when that happens and the Browns are getting the ball back. Yeah. Like that's a close game. And then from that moment on, obviously the 49ers are now, they're done at that point. Like they're too far ahead. Now you're expecting Shedeur Sanders to execute a multiple score comeback in windy conditions and that's just wasn't going to happen.
The muff punt and then 2 fourth downs. The Browns were 0 for 4 on fourth down. 2 of them were late, but 2 were significant. Quinshon Judkins stopped at the Niners 20, and then they also, golden age of tight end push fumbles.
And that
Harold Fannin fumbles the tush push at their own 33 on fourth down.
Yeah, which again, if you're going to be using your tight end, how hard is it to make sure he can take a snap? The 3rd and short where Judkins was stopped, that looked like a harsh spot. Like I kind of thought he got that. And then they're like, nah, it's 4th and inches. Okay, we'll go for it with Harold Fannin. And then Fannin drops the ball and you fail then. It's like those are always tough where it's like the 3rd down looked kind of harsh. And they're like, it doesn't matter. We're going for a 4th anyway. It's not a problem. And then you screw up the 4th down conversion. Well, now you wish you could have the 3rd down back again. Maybe look at that. That was tough.
So, the same thing we talked about. I mean, it was more than just only 4 plays here, but those are some high leverage plays. Muffed punt, 2 fourth down stops, 1 in the red zone in the Niners territory in the red zone, and then 1 in your own territory. And then the Niners took advantage. I thought Brock Purdy coming off the 3 turnover game, and back of my head was 2 years ago in Cleveland in tough conditions, didn't throw the ball well. I thought he took care of the ball, did a nice job, finished 16 of 29 for 168, but had a key 3rd down conversion to handle any comeback attempt from the Browns. Touchdown pass in there, also keeper for a touchdown. So I thought the Niners did a really nice job. And I know we keep talking about their defense and, they don't have names and they don't have actual, high-impact pass rushers making a ton of plays, but they made some of those 4th down stops. They made some of those key plays. Defense is doing a decent job now in San Francisco. And then I think everything from a Shedeur performance standpoint was just like, fine. It was fine.
Yeah.
There's no strong opinions either way on Shedeur.
Yeah, and it's always tough because, as you said, very windy game. You've never got any real idea of how much that's taken the ball when it's in flight. Like he missed Jerry Jeudy deep early in the game for what would have been a huge play, and you're like, was that just a miss? Did the wind affect that? It's hard to know. Maybe I can't really factor that in, other than it's a variable that the Browns are going to try and factor that in because that's relevant to how you're evaluating your quarterback. For the purposes of the game, it's irrelevant. It's just he missed Jerry Jeudy deep. But yeah, he took 3 sacks. They looked not great, but they were like 3rd and 15, 4th and 16. Like they were awful situations where it's not like he can really get the ball out quick.
Trying to buy time.
Yeah, it's like maybe the first one there was a pass to be made if he'd had like freaky anticipation and just put the ball in the air and hoped. But like that's the problem with 3rd and 15. It not only is it a difficult situation in terms of the pass concept that you're dialing up to get 15 yards, but you also have to hold up for long enough that you can get that ball in the air in the first place. So that part was rough. I think the game script went away from them because of those high leverage plays, the special team screw ups as well. And at that point, you're not getting an amazing evaluation from him. But I mean, they're gonna give him the rest of the season. Like, he's already said he's starting next week. They're gonna see what he has down the stretch. Again, I think he's auditioning for a backup job, not a starting job, but he hasn't been terrible, and he's probably been the better of the two rookie quarterbacks so far.
I mean, you keep saying that. I think if he's very good, they might give him a starting opportunity. I don't know if they'll give up on a top draft pick just because of it. But
I think there's the same amount of chance that Shedeur is the starting quarterback next season as there is that Miami makes the playoffs this season. It's under 1%.
He did get hurt for a minute. Dylan Gabriel came in for one throw, but Shedeur was back in there after that. Again, it was nothing hot takey on either side, I don't think, coming out of this week, unless you wanted to say Shedeur's teammates let him down, which was somewhat true.
Yeah.
I mean, the muff punts, the fourth down stuff that had nothing to do with Shedeur Sanders.
Right.
I think, stupid media. Somebody sent us the video of, they're like, what'd you think of Kevin Stefanski? What do you think of Coach's fourth down calls there? And he's just like, come on, man. Stop trying to bait me.
Yeah, which is fair.
It's a good right answer. Myles Garrett watch. He did have one sack, sick inside move against the great Trent Williams.
What a freaky play that was.
He's so good.
There was a bunch of plays
Another
where it's
8
like,
or so pressures too from Garrett.
Yeah, they have a bunch of plays where it's like George Kittle is giving Trent Williams help. And imagine that as a double team. The best blocking tight end in the NFL, or one of them, who's also a freaky athlete, against one of the freakiest athletes to play left tackle in the last 20 years, combining to try and stop you making a play. And then this play, Kittle's giving him a chip as well, and Garrett just hits Trent Williams with this ridiculous inside move. And Trent Williams can't get anywhere near him. Like, he slaps the inside arm down, he's gone. It's like, Williams must be coming out of that play being like, I mean, that's unstoppable. Like, I can't do anything against that. That's utterly ridiculous. And I'm like, Trent Williams still moves like a cat for a 330-pound offensive tackle. Just mind-blowing play from Garrett. The other thing coming out of this game, Malik Collins was carted off and was immediately ruled out, which is usually a pretty bad sign in terms of the severity of the injury. We had just gotten through saying how important the interior pressure has been for Cleveland this year in terms of helping Myles Garrett on this run for a sack record. Well, one of the really improved players for the interior for Cleveland is now potentially out of the lineup.
Playoff implications-wise, the Niners are one of 4 teams that has not had a bye yet. So the 2 Monday night teams tonight, Patriots and Giants, they'll be on bye, Panthers, and then the Niners. They'll have the last bye, I believe it's the last bye week of the season, next week. Niners are sitting here at 9-4, and that's good enough for the 7th seed as of right now.
And a 92% chance to make the playoffs, according to the NFL.
I mean, they keep winning. Yeah. And I think Purdy's better than Mac Jones for that offense as long as he's healthy. Mac Jones did a great job holding the fort. I worry about the actual pass rush. I know they had the 3 sacks, but not a lot of quick pressure at all against this Browns offensive line. But the defense is, playing well enough for the Niners, and the offense is dangerous, man.
I mean, they're a weird team to talk about because they're 9-4. They're right in the thick of it with all the best teams in the NFC. But I feel like, and they're 92% chance of making the postseason, which is higher than Green Bay. Just beat the Lions handily for the second time. It feels like they should be an elite contender, and yet I feel like that defense is sufficiently banged up or just devoid of talent at this point that I think that's their ceiling. Like, I can't imagine a world where this team goes on a run through the playoffs with that defense.
But that offense, man, Purdy distributing, McCaffrey out of the backfield. The 7 seed right now, though, to the Niners. And by the way, that's a game and a half ahead of the Lions. I don't know how you 2.5 games ahead of the Cowboys at 6-5-1. Stupid ties.
The Lions are quietly in trouble at 7-5. I mean, they have a better record than Kansas City, but they're kind of in the same spot in terms of they actually have their backs against it now.
They do. And Niners head to their bye. Tankathon, we get the Browns at pick 5 as of right now. One of 4 teams that are all 3-9. Browns would be the highest picking team as of right now. Browns, Commanders, Jets, and Cardinals.
Unfortunately, the other pick isn't working out that great for them because Jacksonville is now that's all the way down to 26.
Yes, true. They do have the Jags' other first rounder, which is dropping. The Jets have the Colts pick at 23. Seeing that right now. Should have mentioned that earlier. when we were talking about the Jets. Anything else?
Nope.
On Browns-Niners. Let's go.
Oh, God, are we only at the 4 p.m. window? It's the longest show ever.
It's a full slate. It's a full slate. There's a lot to talk about.
See, we've never done a full slate.
Some of these
before.
are quick. Yeah, I know. Some of these are quick. Seattle, 26. Minnesota Vikings, 0. Max Brosmer, 4 interceptions, including, man, what a bad first one. Falling over 4th down, pick 6 to kick off the touchdowns.
Never where you want
touchdown
to see.
scoring for Seattle. Seattle moves to 9-3. Vikings fall to 4-8.
Yeah.
Max Brosmer's NFL debut, 19 of 30 for 126 yards and not touchdowns.
No.
Interceptions.
Yeah.
Seattle defense doing it again.
Yeah, I mean, it feels – I'm kind of torn between, this was expected and, man, that was bad. like, on the one hand, you want to be like, that's a terrible game. That's a Nathan Peterman-esque game from Brosmer out there. On the other hand, you're like, yeah, but we were kind of expecting that going into this game. Like, this is one of the best defenses in the NFL. This was going to be an absolute disaster regardless of which of the young quarterbacks was in there. So it's, should you really double count it and be like, wow, even relative to expectations, that was terrible. It was rough. Brosmer, we finally learned his name. We shouldn't have bothered. I don't imagine he's going to get much more playing time. It did feel like they kept talking about how this kid had been reminding them of, Brock Purdy. And it's like, it did feel like that was getting over-egged a little bit. And you're like, now, to be fair, Brock Purdy has one of those turnovers on his resume as well at Iowa State, where his was worse, actually. I think he flung the ball blindly backwards.
Falling over, throwing it up. Yeah.
Like backwards as well. So, maybe that is Brock Purdy-like. But it's like he just looked like someone that didn't belong at this level at that point. Now, again, this level being one of the
First
best.
start, you're in Seattle, one of the best defenses, fine.
The other thing, though, I think is, we keep talking about how if the Vikings can just get average quarterback play, this situation is so good. We saw it last year. The situation, the supporting cast, they're not helping the quarterback out. Jordan Addison had an early drop in this game. He'd had an early drop last week as well. Now, he makes some plays later in the game, but Addison needs to stop dropping the ball early in the game. The first target that went in the direction of Justin Jefferson, it was off target. It was behind him, but it was catchable. It's the type of play that if you're going to be the best wide receiver in the NFL, make that play for your young quarterback who's drowning out there. Aaron Jones, he checks down. Okay, it's 3rd and a mile. He checks down. It's not the best play in the world, but Aaron Jones trying to make a play for his young quarterback, the guy chasing him down from behind, blasts the ball out, fumble. These are the players that are supposed to be the reason this team is a good situation for a young quarterback. The quarterback's giving you guys at least a chance to make the play, and you're not coming up good for him. I understand you're getting frustrated. It's been bad quarterback play for the entire season. Nobody's happy. It's rough. But, those guys have got to be making every play available and then some because the young quarterback is not going to be.
It is true. It's an on-paper, really good supporting cast. And it's not just on paper. We've seen it in Minnesota.
Right.
Across
now, again,
multiple quarterbacks.
Offensive line, Darisaw, that we talked about him as the X factor. He looks like he's dealing with an injury. He didn't go again this week. Justin School's in there. That's a liability. But this, specifically the receiving core and the skill position playmakers are supposed to be a huge plus for this team. And they're at least chipping in with failures, which is, you can't have that if you're going to have a quarterback like Max Brosmer as your starter.
And it's overshadowing the fact that Vikings defense played pretty well, slowed down.
They got 26-0. Their defense played great.
Yeah. 7 points straight from the defense. And then, all the turnovers that they had to deal with. Dallas Turner with 2 strip sacks. Interesting ones because they weren't really dominant wins or whatever. He just, went to the leverage of the quarterback, but, found the ball, did a nice job there. Turner with a couple plays these last few weeks. Vikings defense played pretty well. I thought Seattle was conservative overall. They knew what they were up against. They were managing the game. It's not like they were attacking down the field as much as they usually do, but they, forced some bad plays from Sam Darnold, and Seattle survives, but their offense was not great in this one.
Both defenses, I think, played spectacularly in this game. Obviously, one of them was working against Max Brosmer, so they had more success, but I thought Minnesota's defense played really well as well.
The Brosmer stories were fascinating. There was ESPN articles about Kwesi and the Vikings.
This is what I'm saying. Like
it was like in today's day and age, there are literally no sleepers. Like this isn't like 30 years ago you found a player and you could literally hide him. Like,
it's
hey,
like
my scout found this guy at the small school and blah blah blah. Like Brosmer
he
went
played
to
at
UNH,
Minnesota
played at Minnesota in the Big Ten. Like everybody knows him, and they're like the articles were written like only Kwesi and the Vikings knew about Brosmer, and it was because of his pro day, and they were trying to get him to the combine. And no one was like, he went to the Shrine game,
right. And he's Brock Purdy like. It's like
everybody knows him.
Every year, I think there's this. Maybe it's the NFL, the Pro Football Writers Association, maybe it's that, but they give out like a PR Team of the Year. Like Minnesota should win PR of the year just for this week of spin that was done on. I know the J.J. McCarthy thing has been a catastrophe so far, but look, hey, we've got Brock Purdy 2.0 over here, Max Brosmer. No, you've got a guy who, like, out of a panic, the pressure that you kind of invited yourself, then hurled the ball away underarm right at a linebacker who scores. Like, we've been talking Bover throws. This was like, bro, my God, what the hell was that? Like, awful play. But yet
it was fourth down. He's trying to make something happen, but he threw it right to the defense for really bad pick six.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, one person I would like to absolve from the not helping out his quarterback thing, Jalen Naylor. Ugly Brosmer interception up the seam. Jalen Naylor from the far side of the field runs it down, buries. I forget who picked it off, but buries him. I think this was the Reek Woolen one. Decleats him with the tackle, forcing a fumble, and then gets the loose ball as well. So Jalen Naylor is helping out his quarterback. Everyone else not.
I feel like every week Jalen Naylor's the guy.
Yeah.
For those who missed it, J.J. McCarthy, he did not get injured during the game last week. I mean, he technically did, but he didn't join concussion protocol during the week, not during the game. So he didn't miss any time against the Packers last week, but he missed the game with a concussion. All we're talking about is like it's a weird – first off, not every seventh-round – two things. Every seventh-round quarterback has fans somewhere. I saw enough people on my timeline who were like, you guys don't even know. Wait till you see what's going to happen. This kid's going to surprise. Like, there was enough, like, Brosmer fans
of course
showing up around my timeline. Like, there's literally no sleepers. And I'm not saying his career's over. Like, fine. Like, maybe he will be good. Tough situation in Seattle. Great. But there's this idea that there's always going to be a next Brock Purdy. And, like, that guy's – but Jake Hayner was the next Brock Purdy. Like, there's literally one every week, every year where it's like, I love this guy. Late round, next Brock Purdy. It's like one comes around every 10 to 15 years. So, whatever. And Kwesi knows that too, right? Like, there's no such thing. You take shots on all these players. Carson Strong from Nevada. Like, you just keep taking shots on these players and, hope that one hits. And Brosmer's just another one of those guys. You kind of hope that he hits.
And that's why I'm saying
it was an ugly.
That's why I'm saying it was spin as well. Like, of course they know that. They're not. They never thought that Max Brosmer is the guy. He's not the insurance policy to Brock Purdy, this
and
Trey
there's
Lance.
No way they literally knew we were going to hide it. Like, everybody knows who Max Brosmer is. Like, everybody has thousands of players on their draft board and knows everything about them.
I brought this point up to you at least twice now, and you've yet to acknowledge it. So I'm going to bring it up again on the show and force you to do it. During the week, because of the concussion of J.J. McCarthy and Max Brosmer getting a start, the Brock Purdy 2.0, the Vikings also activated John Wolford from their practice squad. I think there's got to be a pretty healthy chance that John Wolford is the best quarterback available to the Minnesota Vikings. And also, remember the 6 minutes where John Wolford looked like a really good starting quarterback for the Rams? Kevin O'Connell was the offensive coordinator at that time.
You want me to acknowledge that?
That's their best option. Play free John Wolford.
I agree. John Wolford.
Don't put Max Brosmer back out there
best
again.
Option.
Temu Paxton Lynch was never going to work in the NFL just for that look. It was never going to happen. You did a great job spinning it. You put the media to work. Fantastic. Well done. You bought a week of good PR. It was never going to work. John Wolford has already shown that for at least 40 passes or whatever, he can be functional. Under Kevin O'Connell.
Get Wolford in there. Point acknowledged. He's the guy.
Finally.
Got no more use for this game. Seahawks are 9-3 and 5 seed.
And they are unquestionably now the best team in the NFL.
The second straight year, Sam Darnold's leading one of the teams with the best records in the league is in the wild card as of right now at 9-3.
That must suck for the Vikings to have to I mean, obviously it was always likely to go that direction, but like that's a rough narrative game for them, you know. Darnold leading the
But
team.
Darnold, it would be worse if Darnold tore it up, like if he was, hitting JSN for those bombs like he was every other week.
Yeah,
But
sure. But the fact that he was there and now he looks good, and they don't.
Seattle's a 9-3.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota 4-8. It's pretty much over for them. 12 seed.
I mean, it is over right
now. Yeah, I just think every team can win out when they have 6 or 7 losses and still stay alive.
We need to just
You're losing it.
There's got to be. We just need a week cleared that mathematically eliminates all these actually eliminated teams.
Wait till next week. A lot of eliminations next week. All right, let's go. Buffalo Bills get the win in Pittsburgh, 26-7. It was 7-3 at the half. Aaron Rodgers coming back with his hand injury, playing with a cast. First play from scrimmage in the second half. Kind of holds the ball a little bit too long. Strip sacked. Touchdown for the Bills. They took the lead and never looked back. They ran for 249, which was harped on quite a bit by Jim Nantz at the end of the broadcast. I don't know how significant it is, but it's the largest rushing yard total in the history of Acrisure/Heinz Field.
From a road team. He was specifying
from a road
that, which always annoys the crap out of me, because the corresponding question I always have is, well, what's the home record? How many yards of Pittsburgh rushed for in that stadium? If this is a road-specific record.
Now, all this is true, but I'm pretty sure Fred Taylor himself ran for 234 all by himself back in 2000. We all remember that game.
Of course.
Sunday Night Football, Jags Steelers. I think he ran for 234. Maybe that was all of his scrimmage yards. But it was 249 yards for Buffalo.
And
so
also,
they ran all over Pittsburgh. And all that said, it was still a pretty close game for most of it.
And, 230 is less than 240-something, so he could have done that.
Well,
and
no one else helped.
Record.
It wasn't like Stacey Mack wasn't out there.
Right, I'm just saying that's not
grabbing the other 20.
Those two aren't mutually exclusive. Fred Taylor could have run for 230, but this still be higher because it was 249.
I'm just saying Fred was he's better than James Cook. And this, I guess the game was only close because Allen throws an interception on their first possession.
Yep.
James Cook fumbles. And, turnovers kind of kept the Steelers in it, but they couldn't get anything going offensively in this one.
It was wild. Right from the get-go, the Bills were able to run the ball at will. Remember, they came into this game missing both starting offensive tackles. Poor old Jason Garrett was at a loss to explain how. How is this happening with Buffalo down both their offensive tackles and all those edge rushers from Pittsburgh? Like you just haven't watched the Steelers this year. We've been asking that all year. Where are these edge rushers that are supposed to be game-changing every single game? And T.J. Watt is out here telling you, we just don't have a good defensive unit the way we're supposed to. That's the case. The Steelers' defense has not been what it was expected to be. And so, okay, yes, even going up against Buffalo's backup offensive tackles, you would have expected that to really kick into high gear. But that gets negated when they're just running the ball at will. Immediately, they're just blowing gaps left, right, and center. James Cook's turning every inside zone run into 10 yards on the backside. And that never stopped. Okay, James Cook fumbles. There's an interception when Allen actually tries to throw the ball. But, if they just run the ball every play, they could have run a Georgia Tech Service Academy offense, triple option, and just racked up 350 yards and never put the ball in the air.
Cook just kept bouncing it outside.
Yeah.
Over and over again. So he goes 32 for 144. Ray Davis had a couple big runs early on, too. 62 yards for him. And then, of course, Josh Allen, who broke the quarterback rushing touchdown record, broke the Cam Newton record. So he had a touchdown, 38 yards for him. The Steelers didn't have many answers for that. And the only chance that their only score came on a, 39-yard drive after the fumble, after James Cook fumble in the first half. The 39-yard drive, that was their second longest drive. They also had a 57-yard drive where they got stopped on fourth down. There's just so much wrong. Let me just talk about the Steelers for a minute. There's just so much wrong with the Steelers generally. Okay. You've got Rodgers after the game throwing receivers under the bus. He supposedly changed Jonnu Smith's route, threw it. Jonnu ran the other way, so he was pissed off about that. There was an early overthrow against Roman Wilson. You can never really tell who, when Rodgers is making hand gestures after, if he's mad at someone else or himself. But he missed. It's really windy. We're up to 50-mile-an-hour winds in this game. So he misses Roman Wilson seemingly by a mile, but Wilson could have taken it more to the sideline. Then you just have a couple plays for the Steelers. It's 3rd and 9 at one point. in their own territory, but like close enough where it might be 4 down territory in the game flow where their offense stinks. And they just run it on 3rd and 9, pick up 7 to make it 4th and 2, and just run off the field and punt like it's 2004, right? And then they finally put together a drive. It's the end of the game, 57 yards, and it's 4th and short, and they just run it into the teeth of the Buffalo defense and get stopped. And there's just no life. There's no anything from the Steelers. They can't pass it, they can't run it, and their defense is just underachieving unless every 3 weeks, they're like 6 turnover game against Indy.
Yeah.
There's the pass rush. Every 3 weeks,
but this is not
they look pretty good defensively.
It's not a defense that should be, if they're generating a ton of turnovers, it should be because they're getting pressure like 60% of the time. That's not what's happening. Like, they have these games randomly where they put together a ton of turnovers, but like, this defense should be one of the most potent pass rushes in the NFL, and it isn't, and hasn't been all year.
And then from a Buffalo perspective, yeah, extremely impressive that they could run like they did, missing Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown, 2 very good tackles. They're good all-around tackles, pass pro, run game, especially Brown in the run game. I mean, they're both really good run blockers. They're really good at everything. But Buffalo comes out, just playing bully ball, pretty much, with Ryan Vandemark at tackle, with Alec Anderson, who has moved from center to guard to tackle. Like, they're just – it's interesting in Buffalo because they've had probably the best offensive line continuity over the last few years.
Yes.
Very few injuries. And now they're sitting there with no tackles, and they run for 240 in this game and have a couple key pass plays from Allen as well, including a 4th down touchdown to Keon Coleman, which essentially sealed it. But I would just say really, really impressive job by Buffalo. Conditions were a factor. It's why you couldn't pass, right? So that's the other thing. If you're Pittsburgh, like, there's 30 to 50 mile an hour winds in this game.
Right.
And the Buffalo already doesn't have a good downfield passing attack. Who's scaring you behind the defense for Buffalo?
And your quarterback is geriatric and hurt.
Yeah, so like, stop the run.
Right.
If you're Pittsburgh.
Like
That's what's most embarrassing for Pittsburgh, I would say, is that yes, Josh Allen has a cannon for an arm and throws the ball down the field as well as anybody. But this year, they don't have downfield threats. Their offense has been very much, we're going to run the ball, we're going to throw a little screen pass, which Pittsburgh was all over a couple times. Like, crowd the box and say, okay, Keon Coleman, create some separation, beat us down the field. And they did it. Buffalo just ran the ball like crazy and controlled the ball for about 40 minutes. Pittsburgh ran 40 plays in this game on offense. I think 2 late in garbage time to make it 42. 40 plays.
TJ Watt said he'd never seen a team run the same play as many times as Buffalo did in a game and still have success with it. Like, that's the thing. They weren't even emptying the playbook and just deploying like every exotic run they've ever thought of. They were just running the same thing over and over and over and over again, and the Steelers' defense was just crapping itself over and over and over and over again. The way Buffalo was talking, or the way Pittsburgh rather was talking after this game, TJ Watt, Rodgers, Tomlin, they're going to have a week of serious come to Jesus meetings. Like, the season is right on the brink of spiraling out of control. Obviously, because Tomlin's there, you're still at like 500 and you may still have a winning record, but like, you just lost control of the division. You're not getting it back because you lost as well. The Bengals are all of a sudden a factor. The Ravens are a factor. You're a factor. But like, this thing with Aaron Rodgers, if you want that to work, I mean, you've got to get yourself together, particularly on defense. I mean, I think the offense may be capped in terms of what it can do, but this defense should not be having a performance like that. There's just no viable excuse for that.
No, I agree. It's ugly in Pittsburgh. I mean, I think people are upset with Tomlin, the defense, the whole deal, right? They're calibrated to be mid. That's what they are. Calibrated to be mid. Buffalo, I'm still not out on them. They're 8-4 now. This is going to be a fascinating playoff run.
Yeah.
If I'm Buffalo, I'm grabbing the pom-poms and saying, go Texans.
Sure.
Next Sunday night.
Well, that doesn't, yeah. They're in a catch-22 where obviously you want the Chiefs to be eliminated, but Houston is the next team on the wild card chase. So them winning isn't great for Buffalo.
No, I get it. I get it. I'm saying go Texans, knock the Chiefs out, and Buffalo is going to be a 6 or a 7 seed, and I trust them more than any other playoff team. That's just where I am.
I don't know if I trust them more than any other, but I think they're in
Who
the
do you
category.
trust in the AFC?
I don't trust anybody, but I think that they're in the category of anybody can make a run in that conference.
I got them more likely to make a run because I don't think they're going to have. Did you see they had like the turnover breakdown? It was like 3 games of 0, 2 games of 6, 3 games of 0, 2 games of 10. Like it's just don't turn it over. And even in this game, they overcame multiple turnovers in this game because Pittsburgh's offense was so bad. But Aaron Rodgers got hurt on that play in which he got sacked.
He's never looked older than that play, by the way. Gets up like holding his injured arm, bloody nose, like old man getting hit in the face. Like it just that kind of felt sorry for him there. Like,
did you send me the tweet about what he looked like?
No.
Oh shoot, I sent it. I gotta drop it into. We should put it up.
But he just looked like an old sad man on that play.
Hagel, how quickly can you get these tweets up?
It's pretty rough.
Oh, I just found it randomly.
Perfect.
You'll get it. Talk more about the game while I'm getting this going.
There's just not much more to say about the game. We've kind of exhausted it. I mean, Buffalo, that was an impressive performance, but I think Buffalo's problems show up against teams that aren't Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh they're not a good team. That's why they've lost control of that division.
This is worth pulling up because Rodgers, he gets sacked on that play.
That is a good tweet.
He's got a bloody nose, maybe a broken nose. He comes out. Mason Rudolph comes in, throws an interception, and that was the game. That was pretty much it. Buffalo straight up controlled it after that. This was from a Boston satire site that said, if we can get the picture up, Aaron Rodgers looks like he tried to rob Kevin McAllister's house. Picture of him with his hat, bloodied nose, sad, old. Steelers moved to 6-6.
Yeah.
'Tis the season. Do not rob Kevin McAllister's house. So the Steelers are 6-6, ready for the showdown next week against the Ravens. A couple teams stumbling in to this first place matchup next week. Ravens Steelers that we've been talking about for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo 8-4, and the number 7 seed as of right now.
Yep.
Is that it?
Yep.
For that game. Oh, the next two are. Sunday Night Football is wild.
Right. This one clear. Get fire through this one.
Chargers 31, Raiders 14. Chargers move to 8-4. Raiders fall to 2-10. We're talking about Rodgers and his left hand injury. Well, Justin Herbert broke his hand or his wrist in this one. Landed on it, came back with a fake hand. Went 15 of 20 for 151, 2 touchdowns. And honestly, if Herbert doesn't throw a little late into the end zone for an interception, this one's an even bigger blowout in favor of the Chargers.
Yeah, it was a comfortable game overall for the Chargers, and it was just like a couple of those plays that bounced the direction for other teams to keep the close. Like they almost screwed up a punt early in the game where it hits the corner of the vice blocking for it, and then that guy somehow manages to dive into the pile and get it back. So that could have gone against them. But then they have like a 9-minute opening drive for a touchdown for the Chargers go up. Then Herbert gets hit. Hurts his arm. Trey Lance comes in. Hugely important plays from Kimani Vidal in that stretch where Trey Lance is in, but they don't want him throwing the ball. They're like, hand the ball off, Trey. Don't do anything. And they had a couple of tough spots, like a third down conversion that Vidal was hit in the backfield, had to go power through to keep a drive going. I think he did it on 4th and inches as well. He made multiple plays where he was hit short of where they needed to go, and he just individually decided to extend the drive for them and buy them time for them to do whatever the hell they were doing to Herbert's hand and strap him back up before he could come back in.
Vidal, 25 carries for 126, including a 59-yarder. Some of those key plays that you mentioned. Jarrett Patterson also had 54 yards on 11 carries and a touchdown. So the run game was pretty good for the Chargers. They have Omarion Hampton back practicing and perhaps coming back as early as next week. They play Monday night against the Eagles. Interesting setup here for the Chargers because they have the offensive line issues, which, again, always, I think for them has been more of a pass game issue. Like if you get into this game flow of Justin Herbert dropping back 45 times, I think that's where this bunch of backups on the offensive line hurt the Chargers. I think they can get this run game going. And then I like to think of Hampton as more of a big play threat, but Vidal had the 59-yarder. He had some big plays. I think it's going to be interesting if the Chargers morph back into a bit more of a run-first team, help protect Herbert in the hand a little bit, see if they could beat up the Eagles the way the Bears did. I don't know if they'll have that same success, but
it's certainly a reason to try.
It's another option, though. It's another option on this offense where, Ladd McConkey had another touchdown. You have Keenan Allen. Quentin Johnston had a couple key catches in there, including a touchdown. So I don't know, man. I feel like every team that plays the Raiders, I'm like, look at all these good things that are happening on the offense because you just played the Raiders, and I don't want to overrate it. But for me, this was more of a take care of business game for the Chargers. Glad that Herbert was able to come back from the injury. His status is technically in doubt, but the fact that he came back.
In game, yeah. The fact that he came back out, they strapped it up, did whatever they did, and he was able to play through it, kind of feels like it would be unlikely if he then misses the following game.
Yeah.
They were 12 of 17 on third downs, the Chargers. So, they converted on the money downs when they needed to.
So, it's a take care of business game because the Chargers are sitting here. They're 8-4. They are technically number 5 in the playoff picture at 8-4, and they don't have. Listen to these games: Eagles, Monday Night Football, Chiefs, in Kansas City, at Dallas, Texans, Broncos. That's how they finish the game.
Yeah,
all playoff caliber teams, all playoff teams, ish, and they just needed to get this win, get to 8-4, and now they're at this point where if they go 2-3. In the next 5 games, I think they could still make the playoffs. If they go 3-2, definitely. But this is a tough stretch.
Yeah,
because it's also, they could lose 5 straight and go 8-9. That's how difficult I think this stretch is now for the Chargers.
They currently have the tiebreaker on all of the teams sitting there at 8-4 in the wild card spots, but they have the lowest percentage of any of them to actually make the playoffs because of how tough that schedule is on the run in, according to NFL.com.
And then for the Raiders, they're bad.
Yeah, they're bad. It's rough. Poor old Geno, in addition to making terrible plays, is also getting the freaky plays go against him, like tip drill interception. Just, it's harsh. It's harsh.
Brock Bowers picks one up. He had 2 touchdowns, one well schemed, and then one that he just picked up off the turf with one hand.
There's that catch from Bowers was ridiculous. Kenneth Gainwell had an absurd catch where Rodgers threw a swing way out in front of him and down low, and he somehow picked that off. Just stuck to his hand 6 inches off the ground, and he kept his feet and kept running. And then obviously the Puka Nacua catch we talked about before, where he basically playing DB just went and was going for a pass breakup, and then the ball just stuck to his hand, and he brought it in deep down the field. 3 of the most ridiculous catches. Oh, and Treylon Burks, which we'll get to in a second.
Talk about Sunday Night Football.
4 of the greatest catches of the season all happened in that this week.
Raiders, of course, fired Chip Kelly this week, and it did not fix the run game.
No.
Ashton Genty, what did he finish with? 2 yards per carry. 15 carries for 31 yards for Genty, who still feels fierce when he gets past 2 yards. He's just a force. Just he never gets past 2 yards.
Yeah.
Some of that's got to be on him, but blocking's awful. Raiders remain bad. Anything else on this one?
Nope.
Let's go to Sunday Night Football.
Let's.
Denver Broncos, 27. Washington Commanders, 26. Overtime win for Denver, who moves to 10-2. Commanders fall to 3-9. It all came down to a 2-point conversion. Broncos scored first in overtime to go up 27-20. All sorts of stuff happened, but the Commanders score a touchdown to make it 27-26. They go for 2 for the win, but a Nick Bonito.
And they had it.
Batted pass. It was a great scheme.
The play worked. It was open.
Nick Bonito batted pass saved the game. It was the whole, you've got trips to that one side, you got the running back opposite the trip side. Kyle Shanahan runs this with McCaffrey all the time in the red zone. I could see it coming. Jeremy McNichols, they run him out. So 4 out to the flat, and it's wide open. Mariota goes to throw the game-winning touchdown, 2-point conversion to McNichols, but Bonito, Dikembe Mutombo swats it to save the game.
All you got to do is get it past the unblocked guy, and he couldn't do it. Nick Bonito jumps up, bats it down with his arms, game over.
What a game this was. Pretty entertaining.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. I mean, yeah, you've got the The overtime was crazy. Both teams with a bunch of big plays. I mean, Denver's was like uneventful. They just marched down the field. Evan Engram just destroyed Bobby Wagner, a little like jerk right over the middle. I mean, Bobby's good player.
He made Bobby look our age.
Yeah,
on that.
Bobby's a good player, but doesn't move the way he used to. And when a guy's going to make you move in the wrong direction and then go back in the other direction, and that guy runs like a 4.5, you're in trouble. And Bobby was in deep trouble in that play.
That's the thing about aging linebackers. I feel like people have been calling for Bobby Wagner being old for 4 or 5 years now, and overall, he's a very good player, right?
Right.
Usually in the right place, the right spot. But if you get him isolated one-on-one with a pretty athletic tight end like Evan Engram, that type of thing happens.
Yeah, like two things are true at the same time. He can still be a good player, but also be a liability in the wrong situation. That old thought of like the first yard is in your head when you're like, people always say that about soccer players. Like, it doesn't matter if they slow down. Like the first yard's in his head. He's so experienced. Even if he's lost a yard of pace, he sets off a yard earlier, so it offsets, right? I mean, that's true to an extent when you're playing linebacker in the NFL, but also there are times where the first yard is actually on the field, and if that happens, you're done. But anyway, like Denver's drive was uneventful. They smoked Bobby Wagner. They got themselves in a great situation. They just scored comfortably. Then you get Washington trying to answer, and you've got all kinds of craziness. You've got like, oh, we failed. No, it's a penalty, and madness. Start to finish.
Commanders score what looked like a touchdown.
Yep.
Negated by a penalty. It's
Holding.
third and long, a holding. And then they hit another bomb to Deebo Samuel, who is down at the goal line. Then both teams also just looked exhausted in this game. So there's a third down pass to Zach Ertz, I say tie the game, but to get within one to set up the 2-point conversion. Ertz drops the ball in the end zone, and he's been really dependable. He had a key 4th and 6 catch. Like, he had made some huge plays in this game. Ertz dropped the third down would-be touchdown for Mariota. And then in the fourth down, little pick play, Terry McLaurin on Patrick Surtain, touchdown to make it 27-26. And remember the overtime rules here. We're into playoff rules here. So first team, Broncos went down and scored the touchdown. Washington has a chance to match. There's plenty of debate about whether or not you should take the ball or to kick. A lot of people like to kick because you get that second option. You get to know what you're chasing, and you get to do it with all 4 downs, and you also get the 2-point decision.
That's why I think you want that dynamic.
You get the decision to go for 2 to win the game.
Yeah.
If you get the ball first, theoretically, because if like Washington just kicked the extra point and it's tied, then it's sudden death, and the advantage obviously is in the Broncos' favor. They get the ball and field goal wins it.
Nobody's ever going for 2 if they score the touchdown and they took the ball first. Nobody's going default. Let's try and get 8 points. They're going to kick the point, and then you automatically, the team matches. If they match with a touchdown, they're probably going for 2, because at that point you're going to have chewed 7 minutes off the clock. We're running down time, and it's sudden death, so they want to end the game. So I think that's still the advantage, is to take it second.
And that's what's really interesting about this, right? I remember telling the story on the show where there was a coach who's like, we had the best 2-point play ready to go in this very key situation. And Cliff Kingsbury in Washington could say that as well. Like, we had the play. The play was there.
Yeah.
But you had an unblocked defender who just batted it, right?
I mean, sometimes the other team just makes the play.
You mentioned Treylon Burks. I mean, Washington played hard, man. Like,
what a catch.
Broncos are a better team. Their defense played hard, Washington, better than they had been for much of the season, where they looked like one of the worst defenses in the league. But also Treylon Burks, picked him up from the Titans, trying to rejuvenate his career. Incredible. It was the only catch of the game, but 5-yard touchdown. One-handed, awesome catch by him.
Amazing catch. Yeah, with Riley Moss as the coverage guy. Those people kept joking they Moss. Just an amazing catch by him. Really one of the few good things he's done in the NFL. But a huge play at a key moment for them. And Washington, their defense played well, but their offensive game plan was working as well. They were able to run the ball pretty well against this Denver defense. They were causing them real problems in that area. And then they were getting the ball out quickly for the most part. And that was working as well. So, this one of the league's best defenses in Denver, for a lot of this game, they weren't stopping Washington.
Those were the two things. Like, Sean Payton chose to punt twice in the fourth quarter. First time it worked. The second time it was like on his own 35 with a 3-point lead. It wasn't crazy. But the Commanders, man, with 3 officiating calls going against them.
Yeah.
And on a fourth quarter game tying drive, the Commanders had
at least one of which
a tripping call.
Yeah. At least one of which the whoever the guy Terry McCauley was like, that's just outright incorrect by rule.
That was the grounding call.
Yes, he's like, that's not by rule grounding. Like, you almost never hear the rules analysts be like, that's just a blown call.
So
they just screwed that up.
So here was the drive. They go 18 plays, 71 yards. That doesn't include the 15 that they lost.
Right.
From the ground from penalties. So it was really 86 yards against one of the best defenses in the league. And by the way, high-level storyline here, this was probably the best any team did against Denver's pass rush.
Yeah.
Denver's pass rush.
They took it away for a huge
if you're
part of
watching the game, if you're a fan watching the Broncos, you have anxiety watching your quarterback in the pocket where when they rush 4, it feels like they're rushing 6. When they rush 6, it feels like they're rushing 12. I mean, it's anxiety-inducing, and you didn't have that at all in this game from Washington. I know Benito made that final big play.
But that was one of 2 pressures in the game that he had, I think.
Yeah. And so Washington did a great job in pass pro, generally just blocking it up and creating enough time and space. And it wasn't like all quick hitters from Mariota. Like, he had enough time to get the ball down the field a few times. But on that final drive, the tripping call was fascinating, right? Because Mariota gets tripped illegally and then breaks free from it, picks up a gain, and they miss the contact from the trip initially. And then the replay assist is like, no, he was touched.
Yeah.
So he's down. So it's like a 15-yard loss.
Right. How was he touched?
But how was he touched? By illegal tripping, which you're not allowed to overturn. So they missed a tripping call in favor of the Broncos. Then the grounding thing. My intentional grounding soapbox is back. It was insane.
Well, that was one where it's like, by the spirit of the law, that shouldn't be grounding. And apparently by the letter of the law, it also shouldn't be grounding.
So what happened was, same drive, Mariota's in the pocket. He's facing pressure, which is part of the rule here. McLaurin falls down, and then much later, Mariota throws it well over McLaurin's head, but to nobody. Like, he's clearly trying to throw the ball away.
Yeah.
So that's where like the spirit of the law might absolve this. But like when you throw it over an intended receiver's head, no matter how high you throw it, that's considered a receiver in the area.
And also it looked like McLaurin was about to adjust vertically and then didn't, kind of like threaten to go deep on the scramble drill and then really didn't.
It's just such
But the main point being, McCauley came out and said, by rule, if a guy is outside the numbers, it's never grounding.
And this is the same one that happened with Russ in Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs earlier this year. Everybody was hooked up at the goal line, and he threw the ball into the third row. But theoretically, no matter how high it is, it's still over the head of an eligible receiver. Therefore, like, he's in the area. You just, missed him high. That's what happened with Mariota. And McCauley was like, no, it's a bad call.
Yeah.
And
like, not just a bad call, but like incorrect by rule.
But it was so bad that later, like a later pass, Mariota had a miscommunication where it looked like he sailed everybody. And even though he wasn't under pressure, it's like, you could call that grounding too. It's the same thing. He sailed everybody. So now you have to make the miscommunication judgment call. Neither one should have been grounding. And then they called a false start too. That probably shouldn't have been. Anyway, Commanders overcame all of that against this great Broncos
and a
defense.
Terrible Mariota interception. Like the one really glaring mistake he made in the game.
I'm just talking
awful.
I'm just talking about on the game-tying drive in the fourth quarter, they overcame those 3 penalties. And yeah, Mariota, I thought, played pretty well overall, minus a couple decisions. That interception being one of them.
That was horrendous. But like, they overcame significant stuff and still could have won the game, but for one ridiculous play by Benito.
So Benito saves the game for Denver. And, they did. Sean Payton does have, I think, this feel for games on the line. I thought Chris was highlighting it pretty well. I thought they called timeouts before the end of the half really early to make sure that they had an end of the half opportunity, and they scored a touchdown. Really nice touchdown by Bo Nix falling over to Cortland Sutton with 28 seconds left. So I think like Sean Payton's game management from that perspective, I thought was excellent. And then it's all like he's very calculated. It's like they get into overtime. What are your best plays? Evan Ingram, the Joker, on Bobby Wagner. They isolate him, and they'd done it a bunch, but that was a 41-yarder that helped set up the eventual game-winning touchdown. So I thought Sean Payton, Bo Nix, they did a good job managing things. Nix had an awful interception to Bobby Wagner that helped kind of keep Washington in the game, but that was pretty good otherwise.
A bunch of players back for this game. Terry McLaurin is back for the first time, apparently on a snap count, so not like 100% back, because the last time they put him back in, he hurt himself almost immediately. Patrick Surtain, the second, back in the game as well, obviously a hugely important player for that defense. And Alex Singleton back as well, the linebacker for Denver. And they made a really good job of explaining his situation. He was out to have a cancerous tumor removed that they discovered by accident because it turned out his testosterone level was high when they just gave him random testing, and then they investigated further and like, oh, that's cancer. So he ends up playing a game after the initial diagnosis, didn't tell his teammates.
This was before the Thursday night game against the Raiders.
Yeah, then had the
Plays
surgery.
the game, then surgery.
And now back in the lineup. And he made a couple of massive plays in the game. I mean, there's a
It
deep
looked
shot,
like the game saver to Ertz.
deep shot down the seam to Ertz. That's a catch. It's in his hands, and Singleton dives from behind, gets a hand in there, breaks it up. I mean, that's would or should have been a game-ending, game-saving play, only for the craziness and then followed it.
I wrote down game-saving play, except 100 other crazy things happened after that. But it was incredible play, but an incredible story by Singleton, and a great job by the Sunday Night Football crew conveying and telling that story.
Mm-hmm.
So 27-26, it was a more competitive game, better game than I had anticipated. Denver moves to 10-2. Good on Washington, playing hard, finishing things out, but they're obviously done. Denver sitting here at 10-2, technically winning the tiebreaker over New England as of right now.
The one seed.
The number one seed right now. New England plays tonight against the Giants. Denver has the tiebreaker because of they have the best winning percentage in common games. We're going to get into some fun tiebreakers for this year. 10-2 Broncos survive in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
No.
You're done.
Yeah, well, it's been more than 3 hours.
We went 3.5 a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
This is tight show here today. Still have Monday Night Football, Patriots, Giants. Appreciate everybody for being a part of all this. We had the wrong score up the whole time. It's okay. Things happen.
Tough scene.
Producer Will still drunk off Bears victories here.
Monday morning for everybody.
It is. Tiring Monday morning. Appreciate everybody for being here, for joining us. We'll have our instant reaction, Giants-Patriots, tonight. And then just one more week of buys, and it's December football.
That is a full slate every week.
December 1st. December football, man. December football time.
9-hour shows every week.
All right, that's it for us today. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll see you again on Wednesday. More Check the Mic.